Hello and welcome, brave adventurers, to the very first episode of Magic, Mischief, and Mayhem QA Edition from the Tales of Blood and Sand. I'm your host and Dungeon Master Fox, and today we embark on an extraordinary journey through a world of enchantment and endless possibilities. Joining me are the phenomenal players who have brought our magical realm to life, so gather your spellbooks, ready your wands, as we dive into the epic quest together. I am so excited to be back with you all here with a Q&A about the Land of the Sands. Now, this is the second campaign in the current campaigns that we have running. The other one that we have is the Tales of Euravia, which if y'all had listened in on last night's session, y'all would have heard all about that. But tonight, we're with an entirely different crew. Joining us today is Leabelle, Demetrius, Clover, Leon, Miara, and Styx. And each one of these is a fantastic tale of their own designs, with their own unique backstories and interesting encounters that they've all had, and we all want to share that with you as well. Going forward, we want to do Monday sessions detailing out the stories and adventures that we have here in the land of Akaluli. But before we can do that, we have to get the audience, you, caught up with all the rest of our shenanigans. And that is what our pilot Q&A is all about. So let's start off by a small introduction. My name is Fox, I am the DM. I've been doing this for roughly about 14 years as of today, and I enjoy every second of it. It's always an adventure and a cherished treasure of mine to get to spend these stories with the fantastic people that come to my table to play with me. If you have any questions for me, feel free to comment down below. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our important and awesome content. Starting down the list, we're going to start out with Leabelle. Leabelle, would you mind giving us a moment to explain your character, race, backstory, class, some details about you?
Alright, I am Leabelle, and I am currently playing the daughter of a character from a previous campaign. So she was raised by a druid and a cleric, and has an older brother who was phenomenal at druidcraft. She was not so gifted in the regards, and every time that she tried to practice her mother's cleric magic, she would end up killing things, or driving it to insanity. So she ended up getting along better with her father's best friend, a Kenku rogue named Howler. He mentored her and taught her the arts of being a rogue, and she looked up to him more so than she did her parents. Whenever he died, she was sent into a great, distraught level of grief that led to her entering into a life of crime, and it stressed out her parents, who spent very long, they spent a long time looking for her, and it ended up leading to her mother having worse health and dying. Whenever she heard she came back, her father wanted nothing to do with her, so now she's trying to get him to come back and, love her. Her brother is still on her side, and she learned after being kidnapped soon after this that she had the ability to control psionic energy from inside of her. She is a half-elf, and is currently trying to regain her father's love by doing good with the party.
Nice. Anything else?
Oh yeah. She also was offered a ring at a bazaar. She put the ring on. It is now merged to her hand, and she is slowly having her psionic energy tampered with and turned into more of a dark null energy. And her eyes have changed to be jet black because of this ring's side effects. So we'll see where that ends up going.
Well, you don't have to spoil the entire story before we even get started in the Q&A.
I mean, you asked for backstory. It's a pivotal part at this point.
It is true. I did ask for such a thing. All right.
We'll get more information on that later.
Indeed. Demetrius, would you like to explain yourself? Race, class, backstory? You are a very special case that I created.
I play a character named Demetrius. As Fox the DM just said, I play a homebrew race that he created. It's a Nephilim, which is a mix between a Tiefling and an Aasimar, which resulted from a forbidden romance between my dad, which was a Tiefling noble, and my mom, which was a Aasimar noble in itself. When there was discovered that I was created, the families basically wanted them to get rid of it, and instead of doing so, they gathered what they could and they ran off. Pretty much since then, they raised me then at the age of 20, I went off and wanted to venture the world. So went around just figuring out ways to bring justice to the world and came across this party. They got me into the group by saying that there was a slave market going around, and I found no better way to bring justice than to shut down said slave market. So I joined the group. Pretty much all I have right now is a backstory.
All right. And what a wealth of information that has been, too. I'm sure that that's going to continue to grow and become quite a big thing later on. Chloe, would you like to explain a little bit about your character?
My character's name is Clover. She is a Harengon bard, or as we call her, a bunny bard. Almost everybody refers to me as Chloe. Leah Bell pitched for me to be called Chloe Bro way at the beginning of the campaign, but it didn't stick at all. As a teen, Clover ventured off to the nearest town to go to a bard college, and the town got raided by bandits, and she watched her best friend die in this battle. And so her reason for being with the group is to try to find this bandit captain that killed her best friend and took this life away from her. Briley, the best friend, was the closest thing that Clover really ever had to a family. And so she really wants that redemption and revenge. And that's it.
All right. Let's see. Up next on our little pool of players here is Leon. Now, Leon and Miara are two newer players that have recently joined our group. We've been absolutely thrilled to have them on board. So, would y'all mind explaining y'all's characters?
I'm going to speak on behalf of Leon because he is off doing parental duties.
Completely understandable.
Yeah. So, I'm Miara. I'm a Eladrin elf. And Leon is a high elf, and we were childhood friends in a tranquil kingdom, but because of some events, there was a thundering of peace, which had the Eladrin exiled back to the Feywilds. 90 years have passed, and Leon, who is now 120 years old, is an Eldritch Knight, and he's out on an expedition to barter political connections between non-elf kind and high elves. This brought him to the edge of the Feywild, where I, Miara, just so happen to be doing my daily hunting. I am a ranger, and within my exiled clan, I'm known as the Deathly Shadow. I have whisper-like movements, and while I'm out hunting, I notice a high elf, and he's stepping right into my trap. We recognize each other and spend hours conversing about our past 90 years, And over time, that friendship becomes a love connection, and we get together and we start our adventure where we so happen to come upon the Sidewinders.
Yep. That's a story all for itself, I'm sure. All right, let's see. Do y'all have anything else that y'all want to add in?
No, I think that's all.
Perfect. All right. Last up on our panel is Styx.
Hello, I'm Styx, Dreadfeather. I am a Allen Warlock. Very recently, I've actually dealt with a few higher beings and some artifacts that have slowly been awakening a divine bloodline in me, so I'm starting to go divine sorcerer. When Styx was young, he was pretty much raised by his master, and when he made his deal with his patron Omenaga, he came back and his master was gone, and she left him with a notebook and a question that he has been trying to answer since he got it, which led him to wandering around the lands, eventually meeting Demetrius and joining the Adventurers Guild. And that's it.
And for the people out there wondering, yes, Styx is a mimic in here. Go ahead and speak one more time, Styx.
Okay.
Yep, mimic. All right, and that pretty much sums up all of us here, at least our backstories and kind of some information about our own people and our races and classes. So, carry on.
I forgot. You may also see my familiar Hugin, but we affectionately refer to him as Hoots the Owl.
I think everybody likes it.
That brings up an alibi for me too. I recently acquired a familiar of my own, which you will see in the campaign. His name is Ajax.
And what is
I
Ajax?
was gonna go ahead and say Hoots is best character though.
Ajax is a pseudo dragon.
Perfect. And yeah, that pretty much sums up all the characters. You'll learn more about us as we continue on with the story. But for right now, I guess let's get started in what's happened so far in this land. So, Akaluli, which is the land that they're in right now, is actually the southern part of an Orichalcum empire. It's a northern kingdom that's kind of set between some forestry sections to the north and the sandy sections down to the south. Now, in the last campaign, which I don't believe any of these were a part of except maybe Leobel, in the last campaign there was a war that was going on between the Iron Conclave to the north, which is an orc faction, and the Southern Commonwealth to the south, which is a human faction. And there was a civil war that was happening between the two that, over the course of the 90 years, has slowly settled to peace accords, though not very strongly. And so our adventures take place right around this time where there are relics and ruins and blood moons and earthquakes and all kinds of unnatural phenomenons that are plaguing the Akaluli Empire down to the south. And so this group actually started out with trying to free some slaves that were part of a slave trade. And that's kind of the origins of how this group came about. In their first session, slave trade had been all but abolished. Though it is illegal, it still happens from time to time. Because of the nature of Tarno and Akaluli as a whole, there's a black markets guild that runs there. There's a thieves guild that runs there, and it has become kind of a den for this underground market, whether that be slaves, whether that be magic items, world ending, or otherwise. Everything can kind of pass through Tarno. It's kind of like a spice silk road. And so our adventures actually picked up there. Each one of them had a different reason for being there. And as they came together and overthrew this kind of den of slave trades, they were able to kind of learn a little bit more about who was orchestrating these exchanges, who the bad guy was, or at least kind of the direction of which bad guy they want to chase. Because in my campaigns, you never know. There's always more than one bad guy floating around. It's just a matter of which one you cross first. And so they had done that. And after they had done that, they came together and decided to form their own guild, or adventuring team for the guild. So in Tarno, they are part of the Sea Urchins Guild, which was an old guild that started about 90 years ago by Fei Lin in the Andriel campaign, which was our very first campaign. From there, they had branched out to different regions, whether that had been Tarno, whether that had been Euravia. There are other places that they have slowly begun to go out into and create these guild halls. Tarno is up and coming. It was brand new. And so our group decided to go in and make a team there with the guild hall. And each one of them had something to gain from it. Each one of them had something to glean or some progress that they wanted to make. And so it all worked out for them. So they did. They came together. And the first night, they got to go and kind of spend some time with the Festival of Night. Each one of them will give you an interesting story about that whenever we circle back to it. And from there, they spent the night in festivities, had a lot of fun, and continued out on their quest from there to go and rid a temple, which at the time was just ruins. They didn't really know what it was. And so they headed out from the town of Tarno, headed towards this temple, where they saved it from a kraken. And on the way back, they found a keep that was underwater and decided that they wanted to try and investigate it. So they spent some time investigating that, learned that it was a dragonborn keep of old, and wanted to see if there was some way that they could kind of find the treasures within it, with the help from a halfling archaeologist, who was interested in also researching it for herself. So with that, they continued on to the north, where they had heard rumors that there was a relic there that could raise the keep from the water and allowed them to gain access. So there they met a complicated puzzle, which took a lot of intelligence and craftiness. I think that actually took 2 sessions for them to end up cracking the riddle on that.
No, it was just one.
Was it one?
It was an entire session, but it was one session. It
took them some time to crack it, nonetheless. Yeah. And once there, they were able to gain access to this ancient tomb, where they did battle with their own, kind of their first real boss fight. Which, of course, they came out perfectly unscathed, did perfectly fine. It was no stress at all. No stress at all.
Sure.
And then from there, they all kind of picked up their own little side missions that they were interested in pursuing. some of them branched off to do different things, but for the main storyline, they have got the relic, they've brought it back, and they've done their own little research on the relic, and are now at this time preparing to go to the keep, raise it from the depths of the water, and proceed into it to solve some of the mystery. Now, there's a lot of extra things that I have either skipped over or intentionally left blank, because I find that it's more interesting to hear about these experiences firsthand from the players themselves. And so that's kind of what I want to do with this little Q&A, is kind of cover these big highlight moments and kind of get their opinion on a lot of this. So let's start with our favorite, which was the temple. This is kind of what set everything into motion for these guys. So the temple, how did that go for y'all?
Well, we had originally had another party member who was supposed to be there as well. And so we had just lost him and didn't pick up our other two members yet. So the
Oh, we lost
encounter
him
was...
after the encounter.
No, that was
Yeah,
right
y'all
before.
did. No, y'all lost him right after. After
Oh, you're
that,
thinking
he
of the
went.
puzzle encounter. The puzzle encounter
Yeah.
comes later.
Yeah,
This one's
we're
the
talking
temple
about
encounter.
This is
Which
the
was-
encounter.
this is the Kraken experience that y'all had. Kind of
Yeah,
set
this
all
was
of this
the-
into motion.
This was the
Temple.
second. This was the second session we had, if I remember properly.
Not the Sword Maiden. Got it.
No, not the Sword Maiden.
No.
Not the Sword Maiden.
No.
No, this one was the one where we found the. What was that orb called? Did we ever figure it out?
The Cataclysm Orb, which
That was
Summoned
it.
a
Yeah, this
storm.
was the one where after we entered the temple, we were trying to scourge it of the things that have, desecrated the temple. Because at the time we had a cleric who was following the deity that the temple was built in honor of, which was Legorm, if I remember correctly, who is the storm deity. And he fights against what was the other deity's name? The
Munami.
sea serpent. Munami. Thank you. And it may be better described by our DM on this one, but the deities don't directly interact with people anymore. After it was a war, right?
correct, the Great Sundering. That's when all of the wars between the gods kind of struck up, and they decided that it was best for them to kind of use champions or their own heralds to do battle for humanity instead of doing it for themselves, because the cataclysmic power of the gods was just kind of too much for the world to handle at times.
So they had there was a Kraken problem at this temple because it was the herald for Munami, and during the fight, I believe it was me who was. No, it wasn't me who found it. Can't remember who it was that found the orb, but I was the one who, with my sticky fingers, as I ended up getting the nickname from after this, got the orb out from a crevice underneath the altar at the front. And we gave the orb to the cleric, who then broke the orb, causing a cataclysmic storm where Legorm was actually able to come in and use a herald of his own to drive the Kraken out. If I got anything wrong, do please correct me. But if I remember correctly, that's how that went.
If I remember correctly, I think there was actually a battle between Legorm and Munami at that time, because y'all were able to pull the Kraken back down after fighting its tentacles off. At which point it relinquished back. But yeah, Legorm and Munami did do battle at that temple. I believe it was his statues that came to life that saved y'all from the Kraken part.
It might have been. I thought that the statues came like right after the Cataclysm Orb was broken, and then the whole hurricane in which they were doing battle came after that.
Yep.
Like, immediately.
which
Yeah.
none of us could really see except for Hoots because he was outside.
Correct.
Yeah.
Can't describe something that you're not seeing. And then after
No,
that,
we
y'all
were just
found the wishing
inside
well.
dealing with whatever was going on in there. And then our little halfling friend ended up gaining a lot of respect for us after this because she witnessed the hurricane come over the top, and then later on us just kind of waltz out of there like, oh, this is great.
Leah Bell, they don't know who the halfling friend is.
Oh boy, names not my strong suit.
Theta.
Anyone got my back here?
Well, you know the DM does.
He just said it.
It's Theta.
Theta the halfling.
Yep. And then
Theta the
after
halfling.
that, y'all decided to come back. Y'all found the keep. Thought that was interesting. And then y'all found the wishing well.
Oh boy.
The wishing well.
Someone else needs to cover the wishing well. I'm gonna get too mad. It wasn't even that big of a deal, and I got so mad. Oh my word.
So we came into this clearing and we found this wishing well, and Six and Demetrius did not drink from the wishing well, but myself, Leah, and our cleric did. And the cleric, I think, something about invisibility.
He procced invisibility
really-
for everybody within,
Yeah.
what was it, like 30 feet of
Which
him?
we didn't know was happening. People just started vanishing.
Yeah, we were
so
very confused.
people just started panicking.
I tried to slap him and then was no longer invisible.
I believe I got a spell slot back. And then Leah lost all of her hair for 24 hours.
I didn't know it was for 24 hours at the time, and I was so mad about it because something that I didn't cover is I went into great detail describing what my hair looked like in my my backstory because it was supposed to be a connection between Leah and her mother. And my hair disappeared, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Yeah, no, that one really ticked me off. In fact, if I remember correctly, the next day, whenever we had come back, I went through the town looking for someone that could like get a potion to bring my hair back, without even realizing that my hair was back for like an hour and a half before I noticed, because I was so mad about it.
That's right.
It's the little
Then
things. The little things.
From there, after the wishing well, y'all made your way back into town, and that is where y'all had y'all's fun little encounter with the Festival of Night, which all of you had something to contribute to that. So from there, they had a lot of different games that they could have chosen from. Do y'all remember all the games? Which one was y'all's favorite?
I liked the rope game, the little rope ladder one, where you have to, keep your center of mass above the line while climbing up the rope and touch a bell.
That was a fun favorite for everybody. There was a lot of
I
people
loved
that
that
enjoyed
one.
that one.
I liked our little joust match later though.
Ah,
Jousting
yes.
took forever, but man, it was fun.
Giant
and then there
goat
was the
jousting.
goblin wrestling. That one was interesting too. We had ring toss, which is,
You guys
tossed.
can't forget the bet that you had going.
Oh yeah, I was waiting. I was waiting for someone else to bring it up. Oh boy, I loved that. See, we had bet each other. How much was it? It was 10 gold pieces a pop, right? Or was it 20?
Nah, it was 10.
Win the most
It was
games.
10. 10 gold pieces a pop. 3 of us contributed. It was our cleric, it was Demetrius, and it was me. And we said whoever could win the most games, that we would give the other one the 20 gold in total from the other two joining in. They tried to make it 20, but I was the one who said I'd only do 10. But that's because I only had like 20 gold, and so not that big of a gambler. You want to tell them how that went, Demetrius?
You came in first. I came in a close second, but you came in first. It came down to the joust match in which me and you.
I thought it was the goblin wrestling.
Oh yeah, no, it was the goblin.
Because I
wrestling
was
came
the
after
only one who
joust.
was actually able to get both goblins pinned. Or no, we only had to pin
Yeah.
one of the goblins, but
Even
y'all
though
kept
you
getting
were the
knocked
one
off
with
by
the
the other
least
goblin.
amount of strength.
Listen, man, y'all picked a fight of numbers with a rogue. The proficiencies and expertise that rogues have, it was kind of y'all were asking for it.
I think my favorite part from most of it was everyone really, so from both groups, because both of y'all were there, even though y'all didn't realize it, both groups really enjoyed the goblin wrestling. They enjoyed the giant sheep jousting.
Wait,
They
both
enjoyed.
groups were there.
That's right.
Oh,
Also at the carnival.
Uravia.
The Uravian group was
Uravia group
also
was
there
there.
for a spell.
Yeah, I didn't get to run in with my second cousin. Did I?
No, you did not. But I still remember distinctly Chloe getting the dunk tank was one of my favorite moments from that campaign story.
Not only did she get it, she rubbed it in.
I don't even remember that. What I remember is I remember finding the person who ran this whole shebang and asking if I could perform. And I remember walking up on stage and playing the other bard off the stage. That is what I remember.
I'm sure the rest of the
Oh.
group also remembers you almost getting kidnapped.
Yeah, that was the thing too. She was like, "Do you?" So the person who ran this thing was a tabaxi named Madame Respucia, I believe was her name.
That is correct.
And
That's her name.
I performed
Sticks would know.
Sticks would know.
Sticks would know.
I performed so good. She came up to me and she was like, "Hey, do you want to come join me on whatever she said?" And I was like, "Sure." And the party was like, "What?"
Yeah, she invited
Really?
you to
Like,
come
leave
travel
us.
with her, and you're like, yes, that sounds like a great idea. I would love gold. Just straight up trying to leave the party and go on a merry band.
Greedy rabbit. Greedy rabbit. Obviously, she decided against that with her better judgment.
Leah
Thank you.
Bell, somebody asked you a question in the chat. They want to know, who are you related
Uh-oh.
to?
Who asked?
That would have been...
Oh boy. So let me see here. I'm gonna have to look through my name backlog because I have a garbage memory whenever it comes to names.
Hey, you're the one that said you had a second cousin.
I do. I just have to go look at his name. Adrian. That was it. So in the other campaign, in the Uravia campaign, Adrian.
Oh, that's
which I
right.
do
You
not
married
remember
his sister.
class.
He was a
I
paladin.
did.
And she was a cleric.
In the first campaign, he played. Let's see, what was his name? James.
James
was the-
Thyala the Great.
Yeah, I never did remember all of the fancy schmancy stuff at the end,
He
but
did like a lot of titles.
yes, he did. He still does. But so he had a sister, and the character that I was playing in that campaign, whose name is Leonis, which is Leabel's father, married this paladin's sister. And then I believe that now Adrian is the grandson of that paladin, if I remember properly, which is why I said second cousin instead of first.
Yeah, he is.
So yeah. And Leia is the daughter of, the paladin's sister. So yes. That was an interaction that we had both thought, this might happen, and it didn't happen that way. So it is what it is.
Sometimes it just doesn't happen like that.
That's how a lot of things go.
And then, let's see, during that, Styx did a little intelligence counting thing where he had to guess the peacock feathers.
I did, and I did really, really well.
You did. I believe there were some other things that you did that night as well.
I also got to meet Lady Respucia. And I charmed her. And I didn't go to the rest of the carnival that night.
He also came back in a lot of pain.
Little dude didn't sleep.
If I recall correctly, he also had claw marks.
And 2 levels of exhaustion.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you rolled an absolute handful of animal handling checks.
Goodness.
Yep.
Our little McNasty Allen.
And yes, this does become a common theme in the campaign. Styx is found wandering off every now and then.
So before we jump to the next part of the story, Leobel, this is a very interesting point for you because you procured something at that Festival of Night. Would you like to elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes, so there were a couple things that we got. There were the normal party gifts that you got from winning your carnival games, and I believe 3 of us had fortunes read, and those left little tattoos that we can go back to later. I don't think anyone's used them yet. But I made a stop by a jewelry tent. I was asking around, seeing what sort of stuff they had, and it was Yuan T that was running the tent, right?
No. I believe it was a tabaxi.
I thought you said she had scaly skin. Either way, all I really remember is that she had a drow helping her stock the back shelves. But she asked me, she read me like a book first off, and then asked me whether I would like to be able to control someone, or there was one other one. And so I, followed along with the questioning and was given the option to buy this piece of jewelry that would allow me to be irresistible to someone. And
I think that she
is not
asked if
something
you
that I
wanted
went with.
to. I think she wanted to know if you wanted to be controlled, if you wanted to be able to control somebody, or if you wanted to be able to hide.
Yeah, that's what it was. And I said that I didn't want. I said control first. Whenever she explained what was going on, I said I did not want that because it did not seem like the thing that I needed to do in the scenario. And either way, she said, well, I can offer you this, and hands me a little box with a singular golden ring on the inside. And after deliberating for a while, because she did describe to me that she had no use for the ring, but that there was something potent dealing with the ring, I decided to slip it on my finger, at which point it became merged with my finger, and I can no longer take it off. And, we don't know much about the ring. In fact, I believe at some point Styx is going to be identifying it for me. But, yeah, we don't know too much about it, but it ended up coming up later. Whenever we reached some higher levels, it unlocked some funky abilities, which most of them popped up closer to where we are now. So, you know what? Just to keep people interested in the developing story, we will cover that more whenever it gets to it.
Good choice. Alright, so let's see. I think that pretty much covered up most of the festival. And then from the festival, y'all broke off to do the north, I believe. Unless there's anything else y'all would like to detail here. I don't think y'all really invested too much into downtime during this time.
No, all of my
didn't
downtime
really
went
have
towards the
much.
ring.
Yeah, y'all
we
didn't.
were also
I think
doing
I
like
was
a day.
doing. I think during my downtime after that, I worked with the guild a little bit for some guard work, and that was about it.
That guard
think-
work came in handy later on, too.
I think Chloe
Later
performed a
on.
lot as well. And then, yeah. Didn't have much going on back then. Not like y'all do now.
No, just getting started. Half of the party was new to it, so we were figuring out the ways around things.
So then after that, you made your way to the north where y'all ran across y'all's puzzle. Which was quite an interesting encounter as well.
Boy.
Who wants to
My
take the lead
favorite
on this
encounter so
one?
far.
I believe this one, most of the heavy lifting was done by Styx, if I remember properly.
Styx and Demetrius,
Yes,
I
he
think
did.
both.
Styx and Demetrius did a lot of working. I helped out where I could. Once we kind of got the little hints from Styx and Demetrius's work, I was able to kind of put my skills to the test
So
and help out.
I think we should probably bring up the fact that at this point we learned about, on the way back to the well, we saw a sunken temple, a sunken castle.
Yep, that was the
I
dragon
thought that
Keep.
that happened beforehand.
And that happened as y'all was headed
It
to
happened
the
on the
temple.
way back from the temple.
And at
And-
that point, I researched into it and brought it up to Theta, who found a relic, which is this quest that we were going on.
And it was at this point that our lovely cleric also broke off from the party.
That is correct. He began to do his own work there at the Temple of Legorm that y'all had just salvaged. But with that, y'all did some research, and that kind of led y'all out to where y'all headed next, which was the puzzles. So,
Sticks, you want to take
Sticks?
lead on this one?
You got this one, Styx.
Sure. So we get to where we were trying to go, and we run into some gnolls that were living there. So we had a nice little fight, and at that point we were pretty beat up. So we decided to go to the town that was near there. Some eventful stuff happened, and I gained another level of exhaustion.
That's vague. But carry on.
It was there that I met a informant in a brothel who was working with Theta that pretty much said that we had to wait for a blood moon to show up for the puzzle. And we already knew it was going to come within like the next 2 or 3 days. So at that point, we then go back to the ruins and we start solving puzzles. And I'm not going to lie, I was not very good at these. It was mostly Leah.
Oh, you flatter me.
And then it turns out we ended up causing the blood moon by doing the puzzles.
Yeah, we thought that doing them early would just prepare us, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, moon turns blood red and this funky door opens. Oh gosh. Let's see, there were 3 puzzles, right?
Yes, there was the compass.
Okay, yeah, there was the compass, which that was the second hardest one for us to do. The easiest one was the one that was the southernmost puzzle. That was the dial, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the dial one was relatively easy. And then you used the solved dial to solve the compass puzzle, which had to be lined up with a specific star, if I remember properly. And it just so happened that that star was in line with a obelisk
I
that was nearby.
believe, yeah, there was different obelisks we had
Yeah.
to line up to, which then lined up to a
Stars.
final obelisk, which triggered, and the star, which triggered the
And
blood
then we
moon.
can't forget about the third puzzle, which was the hardest and was forcibly blocked out of my mind after the event because it was the reason why it took us mostly the entire session.
The water?
It was
Not the water.
not the water. It was the one where it was a globe on the inside of a globe, and you had the ray of light that beamed in from the glass top, and what was it that we had to do with that? It was a specific way that we had to organize it, but the only way to turn it, I can't remember the details on that one too much, honestly.
So
That
the
one
entire
stressed me out.
scenario started with 3 different puzzles. So in this giant cavern that they were in, it was a giant oasis. To the
Very
south, they had this capstan looking configuration. It was a sun that had different spikes that came off the side. To the east, up in the northeast corner, they had a compass that had, well, what they thought was a compass that had a globe, a astroglobe on top, that a stargazing tool. And then to the far northwest, they had a hand holding up a Vatia, an atlas, a Earth-like planet. And around there, scattered throughout, they had these different bronze, brass creatures that had markings on their head. And so,
And numbers.
correct. Well, they had markings on their head, and when the sun hit it just right, it would reveal the gold marking that was on their head. And so they had to run around and collect the markings and correlate those with whatever beast they had associated with them. So there was like an hourglass that went with a eagle. There was a winged symbol that went with a bull, and all of that related to the sun
Sundial,
capstan
which is,
down at the bottom.
if I
So-
remember correctly, I was the one that put together the sundial first,
Correct.
like
so
that it correlated.
there
And
was
so I started shouting orders to Styx, who then helped me turn all the dials to the right spots.
yeah. So each dial had a different symbol on it, multiple different symbols on it, and then on the actual turn stand itself, it had a symbol of like a creature, whether that be an eagle or something like that. And so they had to rotate the levers that came out from that capstan until it lined up with the symbol, and then push it in to get it to activate. And once all of it activated, it released the gears, and they were able to rotate that, which would rotate the astroglobe over in the northeast. And so they had to first use the sun to find out what the symbols were so that they could solve the sundial part. That led them to what would later be the sundial with the astroglobe on it, that at night they had to line up with a star. Well, there was a star chart that was beside there, and at the front entrance of the tomb there was a sphinx and a I don't remember what the other sphinx is. There's two sphinx. One stands for logic and reasoning, and the other stands for strength, which they had to use both to solve this. And so in the sky there is a star that is the center point between the two noses of the sphinxes that touch. And so they had to line the astroglobe up with that star that was between the two sphinxes. And then that inadvertently opened a little compartment underneath that had a large key in it. And they had to use the key to turn and crank the hand until there was a sphere that came all the way up into the center of the globe, which caused the blood moon and caused the orb to kind of roll off the hand as the hand went limp and died. And that rolled into the water, which caused this giant spire to come up. It was a giant crystal. And so from each one of these, from the south, the northeast, and the northwest, there were 3 scarabs that produced a light. And when they crossed into the center of that crystal, it refracted all 3 of those beams into a single beam that broke the magic on the door and opened the door to the tomb. It's a very complex, very tricky puzzle, but they were able to do it with a lot of good rolls, a lot of critical thinking, and a lot of just raw strength on some of their parts. And that led them into the tomb, which
Honestly, that was one of my favorite sessions that we did so far. Very much
everyone
enjoyed
loved the
puzzles.
tomb.
Oh, I'm not talking about the tomb. I'm talking about the puzzles. The tomb stressed me out because we
Tomb
didn't
stressed me out as
yet
well.
understand that the cleric was not coming back. We thought that he just wasn't able to make it to the last
And
session.
the encounter was made for 2 tanks, not just one.
Yeah, it was made for that cleric to be there. So I believe, if I remember correctly, to caveat for this, our lovely DM allowed me to use an exploit that I had found in the rules as written for rogues, where if you use a readied action, you can proc sneak attack twice in one turn.
Well, at the time,
Yeah, don't get
also
too
for
used to that either.
levels,
We were
I
not
had
leveled
a,
up high enough for the encounter with 4 people. It
Y'all
was
were
built for 5.
definitely
True.
leveled up high enough. Y'all just needed to believe in yourselves. I was teaching you a valuable lesson. That's all.
Yeah.
Confidence.
I
You
also
taught me
was,
that rogues can look at rules as written and have some fun with it.
I also, for the time, had a pretty good AC, so I just kept trying to make the sword maiden attack me instead.
Why don't
This
y'all
is tr-
explain that boss fight? Because I crafted that boss fight kind of hand-tailored for y'all.
It was an awesome boss fight. Definitely the most unique enemy that we've come across yet, and I've very much enjoyed the concept. It was just kind of terrifying to do whenever we had grown accustomed to having a cleric with us. But let's see. The Sword Maiden produced 6 swords each round, 3 of which on
Every
defense,
turn.
it was each round. 3 were on defense and 3 were on offense, and each one attacked at its own point in the attack chain. And once you killed her, all the swords went away, which we found out not on purpose, honestly. We assumed it would work.
Don't forget, each time that you would attack, they could use a reaction to parry for each other. Oh, and whenever they died, they exploded like shrapnel.
This is also true. Those dexterity saves were rolling nicely for me that time. They did not later on. That was those traps. Ooh. But we ended up taking her out. I think it was a Hail Mary shot where I believe it was it was Styx who had used silvery barbs on one of the attacks and given me advantage so that I could proc sneak attack on the Sword Maiden. And I hurled one of my psionic blades and it happened to hit for just enough damage to take her out. But it was a lot of work on everyone's parts. A lot of Eldritch Blasts. I think it was at this point that we realized that Eldritch Blast was going to be the most common attack that was said during this campaign, given that we had 2 warlocks. Because it was like every turn, I Eldritch Blaster, and I'm like, I'm a kill the swords.
But y'all succeeded nonetheless, as I knew y'all would.
I was just glad I brought that health potion. Everyone was like, you have a cleric, you don't have to, and I bought it anyway. So glad I did.
We lost our cleric, so it was a good thing.
So glad I did, because I would have died.
And after that, y'all came back from there and picked up another quest. Just a measly little side quest to go and, well, deal with a sultan.
Ah, yes. A side quest that took 5 sessions.
Anybody want to take the lead on this one? Whoops. Seem to have had a little bit of a stutter right there in the stream. Anybody want to take lead on this one?
Why doesn't our performer bard describe how we got into the situation, because she played a very pivotal role in us even being able to take on this mission.
All right, so I think it was during our first downtime, I believe. I performed quite a lot, and I performed at this noble's house, and at the time I didn't get any more information on it other than that it was a noble. And I had received an invitation to go back. And this invitation was dated that I was going back to a party that he was throwing. And so that noble happened to be the same sultan that I performed at. And so I had an invitation to get it. It was then that we found out that this sultan, there was a side plan involved with a family called the Hollowwoods. And their plan was to assassinate this sultan. And we were going because he had stolen something from another merchant that we were trying to get back. We had no idea that this assassination was planned or anything. We picked up a quest to get this gem that this sultan stole from somebody else.
Something that the guild hall wasn't willing to put their own neck on the line for. So, thanks to y'all's handler,
that is how we met the
pushed y'all
Hollowwoods.
to the Hollowwoods.
Yep. They are more into the I don't want to say shady, but also kind of shady dealings.
They're like Robin Hood. They're a bit more the people's warriors
Definitely.
in those sects. I mean, by comparison, I'm not saying they're good people necessarily. They're backwards like everyone else, but whenever it's between bad or worse, you go with bad.
So, how did that go?
So the party was taking place over the course of 3 nights. I was scheduled to perform on the first night. And so we kind of used that time as like a scouting period. I somehow convinced the guards outside that these people, my party, were with me. I think I said that Leowell was my sister or something. Yes. It was very interesting. I don't know how it worked, but he let them in. And so I was able to get all 4 of them inside, because at the time there was only the 4 of us. And I went and I performed. And they kind of scouted the palace out, because we were going there the next night to try to procure this gem.
I think you performed on the second night.
No, I performed on the first night. Oh, maybe I did.
Yeah, you performed on the second
time
because it was the next night.
You were checking out your performance area in order to see how it would be, is what you told the guards.
Yeah.
Oh no, it was something like that.
Because the first night, you brought us in because you had said we were just people you knew, and we had to give a persuasion check or a charisma check of some sort for him to actually let us in. Second night, we all had our own personas that got us in.
And I don't remember there being a third night.
There was not.
We didn't make it to the third night.
We got everything done. I think the first night she's thinking about is the scouting night, where
I'm not really sure what it was, but
Styx and Leobel followed the princess, and I went with...
No, the princess thing happened after the scouting. That one was fun. Getting to threaten a man in Thieves' Cant. Doesn't happen often, but man, it was a joy.
You call that?
But yeah, we all
had
our own little things we did.
Yeah, but I also did tell him that if he ever told on us that I'd come to his house and kill him, and you sent a bird to track him. So like, he did end up. I did pay premium for the information that we got. However, it did end up helping us out in the end. So it was at the scouting night that we realized that the princess was not twisted like her father and brother. Like she wasn't the. She had tried to run away and live with a commoner, and her dad got mad and killed her. And then the commoner broke in and brought her back with the king's riches.
Well, let's not forget that it was said that the princess was already dead. So we ended up figuring out that was a lie.
No, she had died and they rezzed her.
Yeah, that's right. She got resurrected.
Because the thief that we found, who was supposed to be meeting with the princess, we found him outside the castle, and we went and talked to him. And I terrified the dude. He was very reluctant to give us information. And he did end up getting 30 gold off of me, but he kept
terrified him.
You terrified him worse.
Styx walked up behind him and went boo when he wasn't paying attention.
You made that a whole lot harder, honestly, but it was also really fun. So we ended up telling him that he had to make sure that the princess got out, and that she was not there.
You trusted him with your whole heart versus Styx being cautious, which is a good thing for,
I don't know. I was just trying to be like, you know what? We're going to see what happens. But he ended up giving us the information that the vault was opened by 3 gems, one being on the sultan's person, one being on the prince's person, and one being on one of the elite guards. Which one was not mentioned. And then after that, we had to go down a booby-trapped corridor to get into the vault, which had not one that our informant had told us, but 3 basilisks that were able to be charmed by music, which is where our lovely bard came in. And let's see, if I remember properly, in order to get as far as we did before having to have the keys, I had to pick open like 3 or 4 doors before we could get to the point to where we had to use the stones to get in. And my rolls were not with me that night, and I hit every single booby trap. Every single one of them. I was like, oh, I'll be able to dodge my way out with my high dexterity. 2,
I remember that because
1.
I remember that
I
because you were
was
walking
screaming.
through and you stepped on the first one and
And then I stumbled into
and
the
then you
second
stumbled into the
one. And
second
then the
one.
third.
And then he sends Hoots over, who has an advantage on perception checks at the very end.
And there wasn't an extra trap after that. And I was like, it's good, guys. I saved you.
I
But
think
no,
Sticks
we
just
ended
wanted
up
you
getting
know,
a
you to
handful
have
of
your-
gold out of that and some silk, which everyone sold, but I used a small part to make some gloves. But that went off okay. However, now that I'm thinking about it, I think we might have left a witness after all of that.
Oh, and who do you think is that?
The prince is
Prince's
still alive.
lover. No, the prince was dead. The woman he was with,
yeah.
however, we did not kill.
Ah, that is true.
So that's gonna come back to bite us in the butt. Stay tuned.
Definitely not. Don't worry about that.
The only
He's a liar.
The only person she saw was Styx. It's fine. And Styx looks a lot different now.
This is true. She did only see you.
Demetrius never made it to that side of the room, so you know.
No,
She
because all
never
of the
saw him.
fighting happened while you were on the other side, and so we were all just having to deal. So I almost got killed. Cause
No,
we
I
called
came
in the
to
hollow.
help, and
no,
the
we called
guards-
in the Hollowwoods with
The
Hoots,
reinforcements
and
were
I
on my
about
side
got-
of the building, which is
killed.
why I didn't get to you, Mike.
Yeah, I know.
The
I'm just saying you didn't
reinforcements
get over
said,
to us.
"Hey,
Yeah, no. Hollowoods about killed me because I was standing between them and one of their targets, and I happened to not die, which was pretty nice.
Samantha says y'all gypped the Hollowoods.
I did nothing of the sort. I didn't carry any money bags. I
see,
just
the
loaded other people's.
original agreement was
We'd
half
give them
of
half
whatever
of
we
what
put
was in the bag of holding.
bag of holding. We finagled and smarted the wording, and we just put most of our gold not in the bag of holding.
And it didn't help. We kept getting low sleight of hand rolls, so the basilisk kept getting closer and closer to us every time.
bastards.
Hey, speak for yourself. My sleight of hand rolls were good.
Well, I wouldn't worry
Oh,
too
the
much about
rogue.
that. The Hollowoods have a way of
The
getting
rogues.
things even.
The robes. The rogue had good sleight of hands. Gee, what a surprise!
He's going to finagle your head. That's rude.
And this time it wasn't Styx's fault because he actually was going to put gold in the bag of holding. He just didn't get anywhere near it. The gold.
We did not get much gold out of that encounter for the bag of holding, and so there's a good chance we're all going to get bit in the butt by that one.
I think we'll be fine. I really do.
I really don't.
Two of us have good relations with them. I think we'll be okay.
You want to start that story? Go ahead. Explain.
We'll get to that at a later date.
Uh-huh.
We're not there yet.
Coward.
I don't know.
We're
We're
not
pretty
there yet.
close now because after y'all returned from that whole adventure with the
Shebang fiasco.
Sultans and turned in your quest with the other merchant,
Oh, and my alias got pinned for all of the damages. That was lovely. Forgot to mention that one.
Yep.
See, it was
I got
Evelyn
something
Shadow
pretty
Song.
cool out of the vault.
Why don't you go ahead and tell
hey,
everyone?
go
That's where you
ahead.
got your magic item.
I got a homebrew item made by our dungeon master that activates whenever I play my pan flute. It's a dagger and it has 2 charges. One of them is a guaranteed critical hit, and the other one is basically silvery barbs, and I believe they reset after a long rest.
That is correct.
And it is called Melody Weaver.
And what else makes Melody very unique is the modifier that it uses for the attack. Whereas most use dexterity or strength, what does yours use, Chloe?
I believe it's charisma.
Yes. So a
Yes.
bard that has a modifier based on their charisma score. It's a very unique and interesting homebrew item that so far I was kind of skeptical about how well it would play in the campaign balancing wise, but it seems to be doing pretty good. But there are a lot more magic items out there in the world that are still waiting to be discovered. And so I'm truly excited for all of you to get out there and see what you can dig up in the artifacts of old. Now, let's see. After the Sultan's Palace, y'all returned back, and that's about the time when y'all really started picking up speed with y'all's downtimes, NPCs, and factions. If y'all want, we can go ahead and describe that, or we can wait till after the rest of the story, and we can kind of detail what y'all have going on, kind of away from the tables. Not necessarily all the details, but kind of describe what your character has going on for them interest-wise. Once y'all came
Probably
back,
best if we do downtime all at once. So that way we don't just stop the story and every downtime. This way we could say this is what we've done with all of our downtime combined.
I agree. So let's see. Story-wise, after y'all got done with the Sultans, y'all came back, and that was about the time y'all started up y'all's Black Market Exchange, which is where we met our 2 newest group members. I actually think D, why don't you take the lead on kind of this one, and then Chloe, you can detail kind of what happened with the alleyway. This is kind of a group thing where a lot of different things all happened at once.
What are we talking about? The black market or?
Yeah, so this is where y'all first decided to take up that other quest that interested you, which was the kind of the gemstone from the other merchant that had been stolen. This one had caught your
Gotcha.
attention at one point.
Yes. Demetrius is actually, I didn't mention this, the part of his backstory, but he's also trying to gain political backing to try and become a noble of his own right, to try and go back at a later date to try and quell the fighting between the 2 families that occurred because of his mom and dad. So when we were doing the whole we got the quest for the Sultan gem being stolen. There was also another quest on the board for I forget, it was another Sultan, right? Fox?
It was a merchant.
It was a merchant.
Okay. So there was another merchant of some sort, but he wanted to try and get involved so that way he can try and gain some good reputation, and he wanted to help out to try and get this done. And so we ended up coming to find out that this particular gem that was stolen from this merchant's family, which had a curse on it, was being sold at the black market. And so we went and tracked down. How did we end up getting access to the black market? Does anyone remember?
It was a quick encounter with one singular individual who'd played with us for one session. And I'm trying to
is
remember, what was the name of that Kenku?
Reach.
That was
I remember that all too well.
Say
Yes.
Chloe had probably the worst experience out of that whole group mix-up.
Yes, he was a contact that was given to us through the Hollowwoods, and he ended up having, we come to find out, had a bad history with his family, which is how he came across us. And so his family ended up tracking him down and nearly bunny napped our little Clover here. And so, of course, at this point, we're all close knit. We came to her defense rather quickly, and it was almost a hostile encounter, but it ended up being quelled. Yeah, and then we ended up going to the black market via him, coming across the merchant, to which he wanted a hefty sum of gold for this gem, which we were not about to give up after, what we had to do to get it. And so he offered us a way to get it through other means, which was pretty shady. He told us that there was something he was trying to acquire being delivered, but he didn't want anyone to have any knowledge about it, so we had to go to the docks. And basically, he even told us to take out his own men to get witnesses. So we go, Styx scouts out the area with Hoots. We see two groups of people meeting. And so one was on a boat and one is inside a cabin. So we end up locking everybody in the cabin by pushing something in front of the door, taking out all the boat. In doing so, this thing that is supposed to be handed over falls off the boat and unleashes
No, it
this-
was.
That's not what happened.
It was a little bit different. In fact, I think it was Chloe's doing that ended up causing.
It was
this one.
my fault. Yep, it was.
If I remember
How did this
correctly,
occur?
I believe so. You did y'all detail the alleyway? I may have just
Not very
ADHD'd
much.
right through
No,
that.
he kind of grazed over it.
Chloe, real quick, detail your alleyway experience, because I know that was kind of traumatizing for you as well.
Yeah, so, this rogue, Kenku rogue that we met in this tavern, he brought us down this alleyway. And
Actually, no, he didn't bring you down the alleyway. It was my fault we were in the alleyway.
oh yeah, because of your ring.
Yeah, I had used my
And that
psionic
happened to me
ability to link all
too.
of our minds.
That
And
was
then
terrifying.
some little jerks tried to pick my pockets, and I learned what my ring was capable of doing by unintentionally. I unintentionally cast cause fear.
On
And
everybody.
And I was on your
They
shoulders.
got terrified, and everyone who was linked with me had to make a Constitution save, or they would get hit with a raging headache. And Chloe was on my shoulders so that she could see what was going on, and the headache caused her to fall back. And so I felt personally responsible and ushered us all into the alleyway so that we could, kind of make sure that she was okay and not be in the middle of the street where most of the people were. And that's
It was
whenever all
just,
of this happened.
I was just casually convulsing on the ground, and then when I was okay and got up, I almost got kidnapped. It was great. It was great.
Jolly good
It's
fun.
so fun. Uh-huh. But, my crazy acrobatic skills saved me from that one.
And then
And then
in
that led
the-
y'all to the alleyway, which has a whole bunch of interesting stories there.
some sprung on even you, if I remember properly.
Correct. But that's not sure if I want to actually detail that out here, because I definitely don't want to call anyone else out. But yes,
Nah,
as a
No
DM, it's
detailing that here. It's
very interesting to have your world altered by a player's choice when not in the traditional sense, but when their improvs
cataclysmically.
when their improv skills truly do cause an altering in your universe. But long story short, in the alleyway, the group was kind of jumped by a group of bandits, and Chloe, who was a rabbit folk, looked like she would fetch a mighty fine market a mighty fine price on the black market. And so they took an extreme interest in her. And so, in the process of trying to swipe her, she gave me a good roll and was actually able to kick them off and do a backflip back off of them.
Funny backflip.
And this turned into a conflict of interest within the party between our newest group member and the rest of the party, which ended in one of the NPCs taking a nice dart to the side of their shoulder, and I believe it actually killed them through the throat, didn't it?
Yep.
They deserved it.
Yep, it hit his neck, and he was immediately on death saving throws.
If only it removed that option. That would have been nice.
But after that, y'all did end up surviving that encounter. The group dynamic didn't really change. Y'all handled it really well out of character. I was really proud of everybody for kind of sticking together and backing each other up on it. And they continued on. And so the group dynamic moved forward. At the time, it was only the four. We had Styx, Claude, Demetrius, and Leobel. Leon and Miara were not quite part of that yet. Until kind of this next part, which I think Dee was explaining, where they went out to meet these two groups that were supposed to be exchanging some weapon of mass destruction. And once they got there, they saw that it was a box. They really didn't understand the concept of it or what it was or anything like that. But Chloe actually kind of triggered the whole cataclysmic event in the first round with her choice to fear one of the enemies, which caused
Wasn't it
him
hysteria,
to panic.
not fear?
Mm-mm.
That was
I don't remember what the spell is called, but the person I cast it on can no longer
surrounded by
distinguish.
enemies abound, I think is the name of the spell.
Yes.
Enemies abound.
So the person that I cast it on can no longer distinguish friend from foe, and they think everybody is their enemy. And so this dude climbed onto the boat, and I don't know if he knocked the box over or he dumped
He did.
it.
He dumped it
but-
over.
Something happened with the box.
Actually, he
And-
got shot in the back, which caused him to dump it, which was the shot
Because he was
from
trying to carry it off to the
Miara,
side.
I
Oh
believe.
yeah.
Because that was about the time Leon and Miara both showed up to aid y'all with y'all's situation. So as he was trying to open the box to run, or to use it, a bolt came in, an arrow came in from kind of out of view and struck him, and he fell off the boat, which caused the stones to fall out of the chest and tumble into the sand. And at the time, that didn't really seem to affect y'all until about, I would say, a
One round
round or so later.
Whenever all of a sudden there were no more humanoid enemies.
And I think that was really kind of a strong introduction to Leon and Miara, too. They were both kind of new to the campaign. Y'all have anything y'all want to contribute in on this? It's a lot more interesting to hear from y'all's side of it as well. I know Leon is brand new to the D&D, but he's taken to it very well and is kind of opening up to not only the idea, but learning how to play as well. And I think Miara has a little bit of experience already under her belt, but both of them have done truly good in the encounters that they were kind of thrown into here. How did that go for y'all?
I just kind of want to backtrack a little bit. The bolt that hit the guy, or the bow, or the arrow, that was mine, wasn't it?
It
Yes.
was.
So it was my fault.
Well, if you really want to follow that logic, I'm the one that casted Bane with wisdom on the person that Chloe feared, so
We're all
can track it
blaming
all
each
the way
other,
back.
as you can tell.
Group
It was a
effort.
group
Group
effort.
Effort.
We're
What
in
are you
it
talking
about?
together.
I didn't do anything. I
One
would
of us.
never.
One of us.
What? It was all of us. Let's just be honest here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was stuck between Miara and the actual beast, so I was the closest to him when he was summoned, which was fun.
And what was
was
the
busy.
experience with that beast? Because I know there was four things that summoned there. Do y'all remember?
Well, we had
I
Ninja
remember
Gaiden.
Ninja Gaiden dude for sure that one shot at one of our. Oh well, I'm gonna leave that to.
Oh, that's
No, you got
definitely a
it.
Dee Dee story.
I
Dee
found
Dee
the
very
experience.
much enjoyed that one.
Yeah, my first campaign, and somebody died on the first session, so that was fun.
I found the experience pretty
I
crushing.
didn't technically die.
I'm
more
I
sure
mean,
you
you
did,
got trapped
Sticks.
under the rubble,
was.
didn't you, Sticks?
Yeah, the house collapsed on me.
So after these beasts got summoned, there was three of them. There was a flying stone sentinel, which would later be known to be a gargoyle, along with a tunneling earth elemental of some sort.
I hated
And-
that thing.
And then there was also this kind of stone sentinel that had a katana that was able to harness the abilities of lightning. Very,
should call it a
very,
stone
very
Ronin.
fast. Very, very fast. Very strong, too. And on top of that, they summoned this massive turtle that was a kind of a siege monster of sorts. It showed no interest in really hurting anybody. It only showed an interest in basically performing a mass destruction, which was going to wipe out the city of Tarno. And so within the first round, it stomped the ground, and down came the entire building. Everybody gave me a dexterity saving throw to get away from it. I think everybody
it
got
hurt
out
us
of
on that.
it except for Styx. Styx got buried.
And I went over and helped Sticks out very quickly soon after.
But after that, actually, if I remember correctly, Styx tried to run away.
Yes, Sticks said, I'm gone,
everybody.
and left.
I think
Trying to run away.
everybody tried to run away.
Nobody wanted to
Not
attack
true.
him.
I was fighting the gargoyle because
And I was fighting a
I'm
captain.
stupid.
Sticks flew away, yes.
Yeah, Sticks said, I'm getting the heck out of here.
I think everybody spent
No, I
like
think-
2 turns
I
running
don't
away
think
from
I
the
actually did
gargantuan.
was fighting the captain at that point. I think I was
No,
trying
the
to shoot
captain
the
was
gargoyle.
dead.
Correct.
Yeah, I was trying to shoot a
Also
gargoyle.
You were trying to kill the gargoyle. Which,
Ah,
what happened after y'all destroyed that gargoyle? What did y'all
he
learn?
came back. He
No,
came
I
back.
don't think he
because-
did.
No, he
No,
did.
he was about to come back because the
No,
sand
that was the other one. The
I don't think any
gargoyle
of
did
them
come
came back. No,
No, none of them came back.
none of them
Oh,
came
okay.
back. Y'all were fast enough to avert it. But after the
To figure out
gargoyle
what the
first,
hell was going on.
We
After the
saw that
gargoyle
the sand
first
was
died-
eating the. Oh, after
The
the
sand was
gargoyle
swirling.
died, it dealt damage to the turtle first off. And then we noticed that the turtle's damage was rehealing, and we looked down and saw that the sand was going back over the gargoyle's gem. And so we ended up pocketing that so that we would keep it from reforming. And then we focused our efforts on frickin' Stone Shonen over here, who one shot Dee Dee.
Wait, was he the
Definitely.
second one we killed, or was he the third?
No, he
Stone
was the
Ronin.
second one.
That's it. He was the second one we killed because the other dude kept hiding underground like a little
That's
pain.
Yeah,
Right.
so that's when I banned him with wisdom, and then you commanded him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was going towards our new guy. He was about to. I don't even know what he was really gonna do to the new guy, but I said,
Oh, yeah, he
"Uh-uh."
was
Ronan was going to
no,
mess him
no.
up.
He was going to violate
I
me,
said,
but I think
"Nah,"
close
because I'm
saved
all
me,
about
though.
protecting my people. And I dueled him, and he said, "Oh, huh, you wanna duel?" And he just one taps me at 55
Yeah.
HP.
What happened? He charged up like his special attack, I guess.
his saber. He was dragging lightning across the ground, making glass as he walked over to him. Gave him 2
And then
hard
just-
blows, sheathed the sword, and then cut a dirty look over at Leopold as just tons of lightning and damage exploded anime style. Dee Dee just collapsed.
At which point, I got. This is whenever I learned 2 new fun things about my ring. So the first thing that happened is right after that happened, I was forcibly shadow stepped to the other side of the map. And the other thing was that I went invisible after he glared at me because it startled me. And that actually gave me the advantage on the next attack, which started this Ronin's
Startled is an interesting word to describe that. I think he terrified you.
Terrified's definitely the word, but we're gonna go with startled because I'm a rogue. I would never admit to being terrified. But so yeah, no. Went invisible, got the advantage on the attack, dealt sneak attack. You know, the stuff that helps out. And then whenever we finally took him down, if I remember correctly, I did a stupid thing and was like, I used some intuition and put 2 and 2 together on something. So after the ring was activated, my daggers that I created with my psionic abilities went from the pale blue shine that they usually are to kind of like the Darksaber from Star Wars. It was like this null energy. And so I was like, what if I used them to attempt to siphon the energy out of this stone, rendering it to be completely useless and stealing the energy. And doing that dealt a lot of psychic damage to me, if I remember properly. It was a mix of psychic and lightning. But it did give me advantage on my next 3 turns or something like that.
2 turns.
2 turns. It was 2 turns, and it dealt lightning damage on top of my normal damage for the 2 turns.
Yes.
So I was able to energy siphon, which is the 3rd thing that I have learned about this ring so far.
Which was able to bring down our Ninja Gaiden friend, as y'all like to call him.
Yeah, Ninja Gaiden was the one that I siphoned, and then after that, we took down the little turtle thing. Or not the turtle. We took down the mole rat. And then
Which
the
then
turtle
took
fell.
down the turtle.
No, y'all brought that down, and then I believe, if I remember correctly, Leon helped a ton with trying to kind of battleship triangulate him underground.
Yeah, with the magic missile.
Yeah.
Not only did he battleship triangulate him, but he did it with such efficiency.
I think he hit him
It was
twice and
great.
then missed once as he just blind shot magic missiles at the ground.
He was
Finally-
like, I wanna
finally
hit
able to
this
bring it
general
up.
area, and then this thing just explodes out of the ground,
G5.
and we all went,
Oh no, you
G5.
you sunk my battle. You sunk my battle elemental.
I
How
thought you were
dare
gonna say my
you.
battle mole rat.
But
yeah,
yes,
that made me
that
feel
was
pretty
interesting.
good doing that because I sucked at Battleship as a kid. So
Hey, look, you just got your redemption arc there. Now you are the best at battleship in the party,
Nice.
hands down.
Leon the Battle Master.
That's gonna stick now, isn't it?
Maybe so.
Oh my
Everyone
God.
deserves a good title.
Yeah,
I like
sticky
it.
fingers.
Yeah, sticky fingers fits. I like it. Sticky finger fits me.
So after all that, y'all made your way back, and that's kind of where we all left off at this point in the story.
You missed the fact that the merchant tried to blame all of it on us.
Yeah, because remember we said that Dee Dee's guard work came in handy.
Oh yeah, why don't
whenever
y'all
you
explain
got-
that a bit?
Go on, Dee Dee. This is your part. You saved the day on this one.
didn't 2 of y'all pick
No.
up the jewels that the creatures came out of?
Yeah, me and Chloe had been picking up the jewels, but
Oh,
Dee
okay.
Dee was the one who got us out of the
Sticky situation.
The whole
Sticky
city
situation.
guard.
Depending
Yeah.
on depending on who you ask.
What do you mean? Curious
just say,
and curiosities.
I had the box of destruction. I don't think the guard should have messed with me, but that's just me.
I
You
don't
would've.
think we wanted to. I don't think we really want to cause problems with the city we're trying to save. That's just me. So, what ended up happening basically is the merchant that we started this whole quest from tried to double cross us and brought the city guard and tried to blame the whole thing on us, saying that we were terrorists. And so I basically told the city guard, like, that I showed them this badge that I ended up getting, which I'll explain it once we describe our downtime stuff, that showed I was with a group of basically, like, guards people. So I've worked with the city guard before, And so I was like, I have done some investigations. My investigations has led to this area. These are the people that I was investigating. This is what we came across. And basically, the city guards sheathed their weapons and said, his story checks out. And basically said their job was done. To which we then followed said merchant to try and get the gem we
Hoots
were
did.
after, right?
Hoots did.
Yeah, I sent Hoots to follow.
And then
Yeah.
once we got back to town, if I remember correctly, y'all went and dropped off the box while it was me, Styx, and Chloe that went and got the gem after it was dispatched at a friendly blacksmith's house.
Yep.
You
With a
want to
pet
tell
squirrel
them how
named
you
Kyle.
assaulted the squirrel?
Oh my goodness, I just said he was adorable, okay?
I think the squirrel would.
I
would say
traumatized
differently.
the squirrel. I did kind of use the Link Minds thing. And I was like, oh my goodness, you're adorable. And he was like, get away from me, creepy lady.
I think his first thing he said was "What's up," but then you said other things.
Yeah, he
which
said,
he
what's
should
up? And I
be
was like,
ignored.
oh my goodness, you're adorable. And he was like, get away, creepy lady. He was not happy about me, and that's okay. I will love him from afar. He was adorable.
I think
You
you
tell
calling
him.
him adorable was what scared him.
That is what scared him. But that's okay. He was adorable.
All right. I think that actually finally gets us caught up now, maybe. At least in the story perspective.
Story's caught up. Last time for downtime.
DT stuff. Yeah.
Before we get into that, does the chat have any questions that they would like to ask us?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of different things and elements that go into these stories, along with a lot of maybe rules and kind of just a general understanding of how the game is played that maybe people aren't quite as familiar with. I know that when I first got into D&D, it was a kind of a new experience, and honestly, it wasn't as popular as it was now. There was a lot of almost kind of a shameful aspect of playing it, and the people that did play it wasn't really streamers or even really groups to go and hang out with. It wasn't really a thing that you could just kind of mainstream into. And so it's been such an awesome experience getting to watch as something that I grew up enjoying has become something that now I get to do every day with my friends and get to share this experience. Not only the fact that we all live so far away from each other and we still get to play D&D together and share these awesome stories with each other, that distance can't separate us anymore. Whereas before we needed to resolve around a table or around a game board, we can just share these experiences online. And so for that, I'm really thankful. But I know a lot of kind of new people coming into this, they might have questions. They don't truly understand how the game's played. It's still kind of almost like a nerdy topic that people just can't fully comprehend. It's more than just coming together and imagining being something that you're not. It's more than imagination play, role playing, things like that. There's so much more life and storytelling that goes into it that makes it such a magical adventure for everybody involved. And I know a lot of these guys when they first started up, because this is my Tales of Blood and Sand, and within Tales of Blood and Sand, everybody here is brand new. Everybody is learning what it means to play D&D and what that even means to them. So they're all kind of experiencing in their own way. Some are learning to love their own storytelling, and others are even finding ways to express themselves through maybe a character that has superhuman strength that they've never gotten to kind of experience in the real world. And so I know for me, I love creating these stories, and I love seeing people come out of their shell and experience it with me. And so I'm thankful to have so many people that are willing to come around, ask questions, and just kind of have an open mind and experiment and play with it. So if y'all have any questions, feel free to let us know. This is more than just what we're doing in our story. This is more than just a catch-up session. This is a learning opportunity for you as new viewers, new players, maybe people just that have questions for it. So I do want to touch kind of briefly, Leah Bell, Demetrius, Clover, Leon, Yara, Styx. I want to go down the table and just, y'all tell me something that y'all really enjoyed out of this campaign. Kind of like a high and low moment for you, for your characters. Moments that you've really liked, and moments that have kind of been either really heart-wrenching or just kind of sad, or maybe just a low point for you. So I'm going to start with Leobel down at the end. Just call him Leah for his character. But give me a little bit of, how are you enjoying the campaign so far?
Could you start with Styx, actually? I'm having to handle something.
Okay. We'll start on the other end of the table. Styx.
Hang on, we got a question.
Oh?
4 in game, and the count's gonna keep going. So I really like with this campaign. Normally, I'm the DM, so it's nice to be able to actually flesh out a character and play it and make it my own, and get to be part of the shenanigans instead of being on the opposite end of that. Is there anything else I needed to bring up?
Not really. That's kind of your high points for it. That question actually comes from a friend of ours, Darno, that, I can't actually remember how he calls himself on the Discord channel. Give me 1 second. I do apologize. I think it's Davmore is what he calls himself. Davmore. Yeah. So he had asked a couple of questions kind of for us to follow up with, but he mostly just wanted to know, what you believe was your low point and highest point, and how did it affect your story for your character as well.
My low point. I think the hardest part for me is actually getting Styx to where he is now. I'm sure, Fox, as you can tell everybody, I went a lot of back and forth with you on how I actually wanted my character to go. That's kind of my low point, to be honest.
But from there, we've made a lot of interesting changes and modifications that has really made your character kind of bloom and blossom in his own way. And I think that's going to continue to change even as you continue to play. That's one of the things that I love the most about this, is because even though it's an imaginary character, you get to almost watch it grow. It starts out having its own goals and ambitions, and then those turn and mold and shape based on real experiences that your character is having in a game. It's very interesting to watch. What about you, Chloe? Does your character have a high and low point?
So, I'm actually a really shy person, but Clover has kind of helped bring me out of my shell a little bit. She was my first ever D&D character. And so, indirectly, I'm becoming more of an outgoing person because of this bunny that I created in my head. And my lowest point, as far as my character, was definitely getting kidnapped, but as far as, personally, I couldn't even write a good backstory. I had to get help to write my backstory because I'm not super creative either. And so I was a little bit leery of playing even at first, but it's, as an adult, being able to have that spark of imagination is amazing.
And honestly, I believe you become more and more creative every time you come to my table, Chloe. What about you, Didi? Do you have a high
So
and low
for
point?
me, yes. For me as a person out in the real world, I'm always super go get 'em, super hard. So I brought that to my character. Well, the first like 3-4 sessions, I had been doing a lot of stuff in my downtime, a lot of groundwork that I didn't know was being done behind the scenes. So I didn't see any progress, and so I saw a lot going on with other characters and development, but I didn't really see much going on as far as like what my guard work was doing and me building relations with a certain Hollywood. I was doing a lot but didn't see any progress. So that was kind of a low for me. It was more of I'm doing all this, but there's nothing happening, to where I kind of sat down with you and got to see from the DM's perspective. There's always stuff going on behind the scenes, and so now seeing where my character's at and seeing where things were leading, but I didn't know that at the time, is more of a high, because now I get to see all the work I did do pay off with such a being a part of the Brotherhood and actually helping out with things with the city guard and with the certain Hollywood that I'm talking to, seeing relations be built and pay off. That's more of my high. So yeah, that's my high and low.
And I think over time you slowly begin to adapt to these slower life play as well. Especially in my campaigns, there's a lot of consequences to actions. And even though you don't see progress initially, there's so much stuff that happens behind the scenes that's going on maybe behind the DM screen or even in my own head, because each of my NPCs is handcrafted and hand-tailored from their own personalities, their wants, desires. Every single one of the Hollywood sisters, which I'm sure they'll all detail to you later, but each one of these Hollywood sisters is crafted with their own drives and goals. They're bubbly, some are serious, some are shy and don't even speak. And so every NPC has their own unique story to tell. It's not like a video game where you walk into a bar and there's the same guy that's been sitting at the same tavern drinking for 3 years since the game's development that's always going to tell you, "Hey traveler, did you steal my sweet roll?" There's so much life and vibrance to it as people move, they change. The same guy that you met at the tavern, he has kids, he has a wife, he runs a farm. You'll see him walking around through the street because he's headed off to pick up groceries or maybe even pick up feed for his cows. Life moves vibrantly and fluidly for the people in these campaigns. And it's such a great, awesome experience because you get to almost feel like you're living in another world. This Narnia, Dragon Tales, fantasy experience where the world is still moving even as you're sleeping. Time continues. The BBEG, which is what we as Dungeons and Dragons people call the big bad evil guy, they're doing things. They're moving. They have their own goals, their own agenda, and while you're sleeping or going to the tavern or just trying to pick up some side cash for the week, they're doing things. They have a purpose. They have a drive. They're not just waiting for you to show up on their door with the latest magic item that you got so you can power scale them. There's so much more to this than just stats and numbers. And that's the thing that a lot of new people coming into this have, I don't think they get to see, because they see it as us rolling dice, adding numbers, swinging imaginary swords, but there's a life. There's a life to the story that you don't see up front. And until you sit down at the table, until you put yourself in the shoes of another, in this case, the character, you never will truly understand what that kind of feels like. And it's an awesome experience. And I can tell you, everyone at this table and everyone at my other table, I guarantee you that they have a character that they've made that has shaped them out in the real world in some way or another. And vice versa. The decisions that they make, the person that they are on the outside of the game, they get to bring that into the game and they get to live out that fantasy that maybe they don't have. Closed shy. We know this. But in the game, she's opening up. She's becoming a very influential, very charismatic person. And it's so cool to see how that reflects back on her out of the game too, as she's beginning to open up and become more interactive with people. And so these moments are so critical, I think, as a character. Let's see. Sorry, I sometimes get off on these little rants because I enjoy the game so much. Let's bounce back over Leon and Miara. Y'all can kind of rock, paper, scissors on who wants to go first, but y'all have not actually been with us for too terribly long, but I know that y'all have had at least some experience. Y'all are currently locked in the middle of a downtime session right now, which I'm super excited for y'all to continue with. But out of the kind of experiences that y'all have had so far, do y'all have a high and low moment that you would say your characters have, or even you have experienced?
So, although it's been very short, I don't think I have any low moments currently. All have been high so far. Our first session um, started with a big battle, which I enjoyed, and now after returning from the battle and returning to town, we've even started our side quest to do bounties and whatnot. We're in the middle of our first bounty, and it's seemingly very interesting. So,
Miara?
I would say the low for me would be the fact that I told Win, my husband in real life, that I was interested in D&D over a year ago, and he knew you and knew what you were doing and never introduced me. So there's my low.
oh my god.
But besides that, I agree with him. The high has been since joining this campaign. I pretty much love everything. I only have a small amount of experience. I've only ever done one-shot campaigns, so I've never been in a fully immersed world and experience. So everything is like a breath of fresh air, and I'm seeing everything with new eyes. My character, I've never really fully gotten to a character where I had to do a backstory or even like do a connecting backstory with someone. And yeah, I just love the fact that I can leap across the sky and kill all my enemies with my bow.
Such a cool experience. And the best part is as you start with this character, it's going to, I know, it may not seem like it right now, but it's going to evolve. Every single person that I've had at my table has always come to me with kind of a rough draft of a character that they were interested in playing, and by the time that the game ends, this character has made relationships with NPCs, made friends, have goals and interests and things that they want to see fulfilled. It's always interesting seeing kind of a blank canvas slowly become more evolved, more detailed, and more part of the world. Because as a DM, I don't really like to plan too far ahead. I know a lot of DMs that will have entire arcs planned out, and you always kind of have to roll with the punches with things. You have to be able to improvise on the fly and move and be fluid. I've thankfully been gifted with the ability to kind of adapt to that pretty easily. And so for me, I don't really have to do a lot of prep, maybe just a couple sessions out, but it's the people here at this table. It's these 6 people here that define what the world is becoming in their own way. The choices that they make alter the very reality and fabric of the world and the NPCs that they choose to interact with. The ones that they shake the hand of, pass a coin. Even giving a coin to a peasant has altered that NPC's life, even when the players did not know it. And whether that be a odd mental disorder that I have, the world moves in a way that makes sense to me. And so it's awesome to see where they make these small little things, these small little changes, and see how NPCs have completely been altered, or the course of a action has completely been altered. I know in another campaign that my wife, she introduced one of the NPCs to another NPC, and over the course of the 90 years from the last campaign, she completely took my big bad evil guy that I had planned for the next campaign, and with the simple act of introducing her to a child that needed her help, changed my BBEG's goals and mentality into that of helping and caring, and she never even knew it. It's because of these dynamics, these relationships that, what would this character do in this situation? What would this character, how would they respond to now taking care of a child that shows nothing but compassion, even with all the heartache that they've been through? And watching as that slowly alters the very fabric of something that I had planned. Just because that feels right in the world. And so I believe Leah is our last person.
Yeah, sorry about
to
that. Had to take care of some
kind of
stuff.
give me some highs and lows.
So, the way that I geared my character is that I like for there to be a rather consistent up in the curve. So I purposely have my character start at their lowest. So I had Leah start having just lost everything. And she has very little that she can say is like hers, like her family or anything like that, that normally you would have. So by starting her at her low, I can continually grow her, and even if that dips, that growth, drops a little bit here and there, it's still a steady growth over time, which I like to see personally. So that's kind of how I set my thing up. Now, the other thing that I do is I like for my characters to reflect some of my hobbies. So like during this Q&A thing, I've been sitting over here picking locks or flipping a butterfly knife. It's like these little like hand dexterity things are something that very much interest me. So I tend to be more gravitated towards playing rogues. And I like to do that as a way to kind of express myself in what I have going on. Now for a high, at this point, I think that the character's high was just before they learned what was going on with the ring. Because they still had that like yearning to figure out. And now they're at this weird point to where they're both concerned and happy because they're glad that they're finally learning what's going on, but they're concerned because they've seen that what they have could unintentionally harm other people, and so they're trying to be cautious with how they use it and kind of keep it under check while still trying to learn more about it in this strange curiosity way. So I just like how that's kind of rolling together.
Indeed. I'm very excited to see how that goes as well.
I've got my hopes held out for certain things. So we'll see what happens.
Let's see. We do have another question from Dav. He
Ooh.
wants to know, who is your most notable NPC or favorite NPC and why? And this actually works really well since most of y'all's revolves around y'all's backstories or side stories at the moment and downtime. So, who wants to start? Leobel or Styx? Which side of the table?
I think it's Leobel's turn.
All right. I'll start it. NPC wise, so my character hasn't made very many connections, but my favorite NPC related towards my backstory is actually Leobel's brother. So he's the only bit of her family that's left. He still tries to check in on her, and he's still trying to fight to like have her dad recognize her as his child again. And I'm having to look at, his name is Ison, Isin. But he, being the favorite child, kind of inevitably got more, but he recognized that and is trying to help his sister through where she's struggling because she made poor decisions and he doesn't want to just leave her. And so I'm very much excited to see how that relationship pans out in the long run.
So, out of character, as you yourself, do you have a favorite NPC, or is that also the same for you as well?
It's out of character. I'm going with Hoots. He counts. I love Hoots. I love Hoots so much.
I think the entire
Hoot and
party likes
Scoot
Hoots.
Love Hoots. We can't end this before Styx explains the Hoot and Scoot. All right, just it's got to happen.
What about you, Demetrius? You have a favorite NPC?
In and out of character is the same one. Currently, Demetrius is building a relationship with an NPC named Heresy Hollywood. He likes her confidence in how she tries to protect the family at all times, seeing as that's his biggest personality trait as well. He loves protecting those he cares about. Multiple times in this particular campaign, he has seen people in danger even in the party and put himself at risk to save them because that's just who he is. It's one of the main reasons why he joined the Brotherhood is he likes their code, he likes what they're about. She does the same. She's always there for those that need her and always doing what needs to happen to make sure her family is okay. And so, in and out of character, Heresy Hollywood would be my favorite NPC.
Also, if I remember correctly, she's pretty political as well, which was something that your character
she
is
is.
also going into.
Which I did tell her had nothing to do with why I was trying to establish relations with her, was because I want to do the whole nobility thing on my own accord. So it had nothing to do with using who she was as a person.
Of course. What about you, Chloe? I'm sure you have your own favorite NPC.
My favorite NPC as Clover is actually another Hollywood. This one is Natalie Hollywood. And I am trying to build relationships with her. As soon as Fox sent her picture, so with every NPC, he finds little pictures of them and he posts them in part of our Discord server. I knew that was the direction that I wanted to go with Clover. Yeah. She's quite shy, which I am, so. And then out of character, this character totally remains a mystery to me, but my favorite NPC out of character is actually Donovan. I'm quite excited to learn more about his backstory and where he comes from.
So what do you know about him so far? Just to kind of help the
Nothing.
audience catch up.
He's a bard. I met him at the Sultan's party, and he travels with two. I can't remember their names. Two other people. Reina, I believe, was one.
Yes, it is. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Oh. And of course, if any of y'all join our Discord server, it's Magic, Mischief, and Mayhem. Y'all can also keep along with the stories and the people that they're meeting as well. But it is Rena and Elena
Yes.
are the ones that follow along with Donavir.
Yeah, I don't really know much. He helped me out a lot in my Vanguard, which I'm sure that we will get into later. And yeah.
All right. What about you, Leon? Yara, have either one of y'all met an NPC that you kind of stick with?
The only NPC I think that we will have quite a journey with is the most recent one. We don't even know his name, which is horrible because we got him drunk. But he's a shapeshifter, and he seems to be a troubled young man with an interesting past. And I connect with that because in my real life, I mentor teenage girls, and some of them also have troubled pasts. And you never know what good outcome can happen from that. So I'm really interested to see what can develop with our connection with him, good or bad.
Oh wow, that's really interesting too, because I didn't even know that either. I just created this guy, and he was a bounty target. And see, that's one of the things, you never know who NPCs people are just going to align with. Though I'm very curious to see how you are going to handle that, since that is y'all's bounty target.
Yeah, he passed out right before I was about to ask him his name. So, yeah, the only thing we got out of him is the name of the possible merchant he sold his jewels to, from which we discovered he was kind of gypped out of the transaction. So, I was a little disheartening as well. But I'm interested to see where the story goes, with this mystery merchant and this mysterious individual who turned to petty thievery after, leaving his previous life in the Navy. So, yeah.
What about you, Styx?
We actually have a question
Uh,
in the chat.
yes. And I am going to circle back to that, but I don't
Okay.
want to derail from the other question that we were addressing.
So in character, it's probably between Respucia and very recently, can't believe I'm gonna say this, Scarlet Hollywood.
Man, them Hollywood sisters be getting a lot
Well,
of play.
I'll go more over it in the downtime section, but Styx has probably come to a realization that she is not who she appears to be. Out of character though, I kind of like Mr. Ramen.
Ah, yes.
That nickname will always stick, won't it?
So, Azer Ramen,
Ramen.
who is that to y'all?
That is our guild handler. He's the person that the guild assigned to us to hand us jobs and to make sure that we're taken care of.
All right.
Real
And
quick before we get to the next section, could I interject just really quickly and say I mentioned the lock picking and stuff. They are completely legal where I'm from. I just thought about that. They're not legal everywhere, but they are legal where I'm from.
I want you to know my little,
Had to cover that.
my little, what I do in real world heart, skittered a little bit when you said that.
yeah, no, it's completely legal, and it's just a hobby of mine. I'm not trying to break into anyone's house or shank anybody.
It is true. We are allowed to carry lockpicks, at least in the region that we're in. So, thankfully, because of that,
So long as you
it's
carry a lock with them to prove that you are, what's the word I'm looking for?
Practicing.
Not trying to rob stuff.
it's a
They are legal where I'm from.
recreational issue.
Yes. Some places they're not legal. They are legal where I'm from. I just wanted to cover that before anybody was like, "Whoa, now."
So our next question actually comes from Ziggy. And he has a question. He wants to know, what is the area that you all are meeting in? The background. Is this a tavern in the story? That's quite an interesting question that you have for me. So, actually, this tavern behind me is in fact part of the story, but only a few people are going to know it. This group here would not actually know much about this tavern. But this is the Jolly Fox Tavern. I believe Leobel might be the only
I know
person
about
that
this
has
one.
any knowledge about the Jolly Fox Tavern.
I do.
Would
Wasn't
you
this
like to
where-
explain a bit?
So, if I remember correctly, the Jolly Fox Tavern, that was the tavern that we spent the most time in the last campaign, right?
So, the Jolly Fox
And-
Tavern is the tavern that shows up during the 13th hour of the night.
Yeah. And the Tavern Keep, he is quoted with saying that he just enjoys watching and listening to adventures as they come in.
Correct.
And
So-
his thing sparked a very small thing with a couple party members in the last session, or not last session, last campaign. If I remember correctly, for a little while there, they were trying to canonize Foxianity.
Well, there was also a big theory as well that the tavern owner for the Jolly Fox Tavern is Aegeus himself, who is the Herald of the
Yes.
Pantheons. And so, yes, this tavern does hold a lot of semblance. However, this group hasn't quite figured out where this tavern is. But they might be able to.
Isn't it still located in Andriel?
But if you remember from the lore, the Jolly Fox Tavern
That's
exists in
possible.
multiple taverns. It's the ones that
That's
are marked
true.
by the fox.
That's true. Wasn't that information that we gained from Foxier?
That's correct.
I can't
From
use
the
this
fox
information
himself.
in campaign. I can't use this information in campaign.
But yes, this is the
yes.
Jolly Fox Tavern, which, yes, the theory is, at least with the old party, that the one true pantheon deity, I don't want to say the one true god because that's not exactly how I want to word it, but the one true pantheon deity, which I might, if y'all want, and y'all give me enough comments on it, I might do a video that just details the pantheons and the lore of Vatia, the world of Vatia. But yes, Aegeus is the god of creation, where he neither cares for
He is
Life
a bit
or-
epitome of true neutral.
yeah, he never really cared much about life or death or anything like that. But
Is he
I
not
believe Leah.
Fox? Is he not his actual like what he's represented as is both a mother of nature and a like reaper of death, right? Like
Yes.
with most pictures
So
as.
the galaxy symbols are the ones they exhibit. And yes, Samantha is making a valid point that I believe her and so that would have been Phelan, Fyson, and one other person were the only ones who actually attended the Jolly Fox, and they were the ones that got the coin. I believe Leobel here only heard about it through out of character. So even
Yes.
then, it's still a very elusive tavern. But yes, there is a tavern that, through celestial writing, will appear during the 13th hour in one tavern in each major city in the kingdoms. There's a deity that kind of roams around and just watches all the world unfold.
It's almost like he's playing The Sims and he only gets on during the 13th hour.
Yep, just to kind of watch the world. Yes, Samantha? I can't tell if I'm also being griped at by my wife.
Chances are you are.
I
I'm kidding.
don't want to release too much
Partially.
information, but yes, the question that was asked, this is in the story. So this is the Jolly Fox Tavern. I don't think she's going to continue on with the chat.
No, very much would like to come across it organically in character, but never gonna force anything.
Ah, nor will I let
We
you.
also like to come across it organically.
So in Dungeons and
It'll happen
Dragons
if it
term,
happens, and if it
we
doesn't, it doesn't.
call that metagaming, and that's where you know something out of character that your character would not know. And so, as such, even though some of my group members have learned about the Jolly Fox Tavern, unless they come across it organically in my world, they won't be able to actually access this or use this as knowledge. But this might spark an interest that they might kind of open their eyes to. So, who knows? It's very interesting. She was apparently screaming at me.
Well, I shall scream at you too.
I think she was saying not to release too much information. She knows certain
Well,
things.
Probably the case, but as the DM, I am a little loose-lipped about things that I get too excited about. So, apologies. I won't let any more of those dirty little secrets slip out, I promise.
I can keep your secrets.
Do it.
No, I refuse. And with that, shh, I'm not answering that. Stop it. You're trying to trick me. You're trying to trick me. Stop it.
They aren't.
This is
because
a
this
Q&A,
isn't about
not a
you.
reveal. Oh, I wouldn't be so sure about that either.
I wasn't being Oh, come on. Can't you take a joke? Golly. This is what I have to deal with.
Well, let's kind of break away from this, but do feel free to ask any questions that y'all have. We will try and address them. But I do want to keep
Unless
the
it's
show moving
metagaming
along.
like that, Samantha.
I don't... Y'all are trying to trick me. As you can tell, I
I'm not
very
trying to
much
trick
like
you.
revealing information that I should not. But let's cover over into backstories. Well, not really backstories, but
Downtime
kind of
activities.
downtime activities.
Yes.
With this, I do want y'all to kind of give me an overview, not necessarily too much information if you don't want to reveal it, but do give me kind of an overview of something that you're doing for your downtime activities. So an NPC that you're interested in, maybe even a faction that you're part of, along with maybe a deity or anything like that. Try and give us a little bit about how the world is relating with y'all. How are you relating with the world? What difference are you making in this world to make the world remember you? Let's start with Styx, actually.
So the biggest thing is Styx is a follower of Omenaga. That is the god of, I guess the pantheon would be the Undying. We may go into more of that later. So as his patron, he's made a deal with her, which hasn't come up in game yet, so I don't want to spoil it too much. In downtime, I've been going to the Scholars Guild. I'm trying to get access to their libraries. Recently, I've been on, I say a date in quotation marks, with Scarlet Hollowwood. It did not go well. I used it to get permission to get access to the Doomsday weapon. So right now she is holding Hoots hostage for a real date. And then I guess what I'll leave us off with is kind of a hint for the group. Styx may not have been telling the truth about a lot of things, so have fun with that.
Question for you out of character, Styx, then.
Okay.
Me and you have been traveling the longest together. Is this related to your backstory? Is this related to current events?
The hint I guess she gave you? Current events.
Okay, so I wouldn't have any insight, Roger.
There was
Definitely
something else I
not.
wanted to bring up, but I don't remember what it was. Oh, when we were talking earlier about Scarlet during that fake date, Styx kind of has the realization, but he doesn't know if it's quite true or not, that Scarlet has just been putting on like kind of a performance for everybody, and it kind of reminds Styx a lot of himself. But he's not sure if this is just another performance of Scarlet or something she's just, using to get to Styx. So I'm gonna keep going, I guess, and find out.
Yes. That was an interesting little interaction that y'all had during your downtime and activities. Hopefully it didn't leave you too heartbroken.
The DM did a very good job. I actually felt kind of bad for using the date to get what Styx wanted. So, good job on that.
He
You're
loves to
welcome.
tug at your heartstrings.
I do my very best. Let's see. Miara and Leon. So y'all's downtime activities are relatively fresh and new.
Indeed, they are.
So y'all have recently started looking into doing the bounty hunting, right? Y'all were looking to try and join into the bounty hunting guild.
Correct.
Right.
And how are y'all feeling about that so far? I know y'all haven't got to make too much progress for it, but do you have anything to give our viewers about it?
Or me, since I don't know either.
Yeah. Are we talking about the bounty or the guild? Because I'm still learning about the guild. But...
Kind of a mix of both. Just how are you
Okay.
feeling about the... Honestly, for y'all, I would like to know just kind of how you're feeling about the whole concept of doing downtime activity. Y'all got to kind of watch it firsthand in our last downtime session, and then you got to experience a bit as well within y'all's own experience of chasing this guy, hunting him down, doing some skill checks, and how did y'all feel
Yeah,
about all that?
Yeah, it was different from the fight for sure. We had to converse with a lot of people and get clues and on what to do, and we had to do certain roles to either persuade or question different characters. But yeah, we even had a fun little chase where we had to roll, and I got to tackle a guy and make him fall on the ground, and then I looked in his pockets to see if he was actually the thief and if he stole anything. So it was quite interesting.
Also, Styx, did you mention your guild that you're working with?
I said the Scholars Guild, but I think it's actually the Arcanum Society.
Yes, that is correct. So the Arcanum Society, do you want to kind of describe what they are about?
Think of like the Mages Guild from Skyrim. It's studying artifacts or different points of knowledge, archaeology, artifacts, history, stuff like that.
And then Leon and Miara, do y'all remember what y'all's guild is that y'all have kind of enlisted in? Y'all's downtime guild?
Hold on, we
not-
took notes. Give us a second.
Always a good sign, right?
It's a very
yes,
promising
they're
sign.
called the Dune Seekers. Yes.
That is correct. The Dune Seekers. That is a bounty hunting guild that is kind of local to the Tarno-Akaluli region. Some of the guilds run worldwide, whereas some of them are more local and central. And so the Dune Seekers are indeed a local bounty hunting guild that kind of work hand in hand with not only the government, but just kind of the jobs that some of the other guilds are not quite willing to take. So there's a prize to be had. The Dune Seekers will find it. What about you, Chloe? I know you got a lot going on in your downtime that you spend wandering around the streets doing.
So, for the majority of my downtime at the beginning of the campaign, I spent it performing in different taverns and like various places around the town. It makes pretty decent money. And then I've been spending a lot of time with Natalie Ellerwood, kind of maintaining my relationship with her. And then I also found a performance guild called the Luminary Vanguard that I went and did a job for. I essentially delivered different art supplies to 3 different people. And then after the raid at the Sultan's Palace or whatever, I wanted to meet up with Donavir again because I was performing at a tavern that he was in, and he tipped me pretty decently. And so I went up to thank him, and he asked me what I was up to, and I told him about the Vanguard, and he gave me a book of 400 ancient battle hymns. And so I went and I took this book to the Luminary Vanguard, and I got a mentor out of this book. So it raised me from Rep 1 to Rep 4. And my mentor's name is Bartholomew. And he had me go on a mission where I went around to 3 different people who are teachers at the guild, and I had to ask them like what they do there and what sets them aside from everybody else. And the one that really stuck with me was I met this teacher, and she's a bard, but she's deaf and mute. And she learned to make music with the birds and nature. And then I found out that my mentor, creates musical instruments. And so I was able to pull out my dagger and I played it for him, and he is also he's in the process of teaching me. I think he's going to teach me how to make musical instruments myself, which I'm pretty excited for.
Indeed. And you got all of that going on while you're also spending time with Natalie as well.
Yep.
And she's not the only one that's been an extremely busybody either. So has Demetrius as well.
Yes. Currently, as I've mentioned, I'm spending a lot of time with Heresy. So far, I've gotten to see her open up and show her more vulnerable emotional side, which she doesn't usually show to people, which I find to be nice, because, it's always good to see people open up and be comfortable around you to be who they are. And then I'm also getting currently into blacksmithing with the blacksmiths that they came across for the gem that we had for the quest. He is going to
Tiberius.
start teaching me. Yes. So he's going to start
Tiberius
teaching me
and
how to
Kyle.
blacksmith. And then I'm doing a lot of work with the Brotherhood of Honor. Just doing jobs for them, doing guard work, trying to build rep. Trying to get in with them to just keep moving up the ranks. And then I am starting to try, because I am multi-class in this campaign, so I am a warlock / paladin. The Brotherhood of Honor kind of works with my paladin side, but I'm trying to get in with the Arcanum Society as well to start working with my warlock side. So that has been an interesting adventure in itself to try and get with them. And then I'm also, in my downtime, trying to build relations with Aegeus, because I am a follower of him. So that's why when it was mentioned earlier, I got a little excited, because I eventually, because he's the only god that wandered the mortal plane, want to try, if at all naturally, to come across him. Want to try and do that, because I want to try and build relations with him for endgame to get in good with him. So, but yeah, that is what I've done with my downtime.
So, this Brotherhood of Honor, what is that?
So they look out for people, so they tend to make sure they do a lot of guard work protecting people that need protecting, but they also do a lot of charity work and helping out people in the common folk, providing supplies. They do a lot of good for the town, and so they're a faction of guards that believe in like honor above all. So it's highly in their code that you don't do anything that would dishonor the group themselves. But they're a bunch of guard people that help the community. And that's all I've gathered so far.
That's definitely about right. There's a few other things that you can kind of pick up from there too, but you'll learn that as you go on. Leabelle, what are you doing with your
Yes.
downtime?
So before we get on to like my super lackluster downtime, I do have a question. So I don't know much about the other people's downtimes because I missed the downtime session that we had. However, I have to ask. Please tell me that Bartholomew is a tabaxi and that his name is a pun.
He is not.
That
I
makes
believe
me
he's a
so
very
sad.
human.
I'm so sad. I'm so sad now. Okay. Now, back to the question at hand. I probably have the least amount of accomplished downtime, even if you include the Leon and Miara with theirs, because all of my downtime has gone to one purpose. And that one purpose is that I have been trying to figure out how the ring functions. So all of my downtime has gone towards soaking into that. Whenever I get the chance to do more, I will tell you that I do have a few things planned. A little bit of research on the side for what exactly I'm not going to reveal, but I do have a little bit of research planned. And I do have a meeting set up where Styx is going to inspect the ring and give me more concrete information about it, as well as a few little knick-knacky jobs here and there, but nothing too crazy. A little bit more black market stuff, see what all wares they have down there, sort of stuff.
Ah, yes, I believe you were looking for that hidden blade while you were down in the black
I
market.
did want to look at it, and I just haven't gotten around to it because of how things functioned.
So if y'all are not familiar, our downtime is kind of something that the characters do when we're not running sessions. Our sessions are always Mondays at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time for this group, and then Sunday at 7 p.m. Central Time for the other group. During that time, there's a lot of time that we kind of want to play, we want to hang out, we want to do things like that, but we have to wait a week until the next session. And so they like to do these things called downtimes, where in the game, they will take off, 3 days, 4 days. I think the last
It's
one that we
usually
did
3
was a
days.
week.
This one was a week.
And so during that time, they will occasionally send me messages that they want to investigate into this, look into this. We'll do a roll on dice rolls, we'll do modifiers, things like that. Kind of whatever I need them to do for me to kind of help me judge how the world would react to the thing that they're trying to do. And then I respond back to them, and that kind of becomes their downtime activity, whether that's meeting up with somebody, going on a date, working, making blacksmith stuff, making money. All of that contributes in some form or fashion to their own reputations, their own NPCs. They can build, likability, I guess, is kind of a word to describe, but they can build their own affection ratings with these NPCs, not necessarily for relationships, but just for bartering too. They need something done, they can go to this NPC that they've invested time working with to improve the relationships with them to see if it will help increase their persuasion rolls or intimidation rolls, whatever they're trying to do for it. And so that's what these downtime activities mean to them. Now, on top of that, each of these players, or at least most of them, have some sort of deity that they relate with. I know Chloe, she has Terra, Demetrius has Aegeus, Styx has Omenaga. The other three may have some deities, may not. It's not a choice, but it is an extra kind of flavor to add to their characters, something that they can devote to. And for that, they also gain boons and benefits and things like that for it as well. And so this kind of makes up what our D&D sessions are. Is just this moment where we come together, we craft a story through player interactions, funny moments, things like that. And as we kind of come down to the end of the stream, because we don't really have much more questions, if y'all have any, feel free to post them. We'll get them answered. But as we kind of wrap it up, come down to the end of the stream, I just want to go through one last time and have the characters kind of tell you like their best moments, their funniest moments, their most memorable moments that they've had in the session, and kind of why they enjoy or don't enjoy D&D. I will take the negative criticism too. If it must be done, it must be done. But tell us what your favorite moments were, or moment, and why you enjoy even playing the game. What does it mean to sit down at the table with all of us and commit to this every week? What brings you back? Leva, start off.
So, kind of a more random one is that I thoroughly enjoyed the black market that we did. For no reason other than the fact that, one, I got to get some growth with the item that I had been spending my entire downtime related to. So, very much something that I was overjoyed to have happen. But the other thing was that I was glad that I could play into my backstory a little bit more in that area. Because given that, Leah has her roots in criminal and underground workings, it felt almost right that she be able to just kind of take charge in the scenario and usher people through this slum and the crowds and kind of work her way through and work negotiations. And it just felt like a time where my backstory and my character could really shine compared to some of the other scenarios where other people get their opportunities. That was probably my favorite scenario that I played through in this one.
And what makes you come back?
What makes me come back, well, first off, is the fact that I just genuinely love the fantasy element of it all. I just genuinely enjoy the playing and the supernatural abilities. And while I'm not playing a mage class, I enjoy the fact that I have the psionics working for me with the soul knife that I'm playing. It's just, there's something rewarding about being able to enter into this world of make-believe and forge paths that are meaningful rather than just, yeah, you do this with no consequences. It's tangible, and so I very much enjoy it.
What about you, Didi?
My favorite moment in the campaign was actually what was already talked about, and the fact that the city guard came to kind of be like, hey, what's going on and everything being and me being able to get us out of that. Just like I said in prior, like was prior to that, prior to 2 sessions before that, feeling like a lot of what I did was for nothing. And so once everything started adding up and seeing all the work pay off, in this particular moment, being able to use my access that I was getting through a particular guild that I was working with really felt good. What keeps me coming back to the table every single week? I like the whole aspect of, like you said, starting off with the whole D&D, being able to live out a world that is different than the real world, right? Being able to kind of do things that just basically the whole fantasy aspect of it is really intriguing to me. So that's what keeps me coming back.
All right, Chloe, you're up next.
So, music has been a big part of my life for a while. And so every time I get to play my instruments or do anything in regards to being a bard is awesome. When I kicked that guy off the stage at the very beginning of the campaign, that's been the funniest moment for me so far. That
We
I
didn't
think will
even
stick
cover
with me
that
for a
moment
while.
in the story
Yes, we
either.
did.
No,
A little bit.
we did.
We touched
I
on
was
it
thinking
lightly.
about the slave one where
But
we were
I do
busting
remember
the slave
her-
trade and you rocked 2 instruments at the same time.
I do remember
Oh,
her pulling
yeah.
out 2 instruments and having the competition cry and run off of stage. I remember that when your rolls were just so beautiful.
Wasn't it
And
like a
then-
nat 20 or something?
It
Like
was
in the
2. It was
first
like 2 nat
session?
20s. Yes. It was
And-
beautiful.
And then
Oh, it was beautiful.
the performer before me at the Sultan party, I believe, was the same dude.
Yeah, it was.
So that was
it
kind of like
it was
a-
delicious irony.
That was kind of like a big follow through moment for her, was that she got put after the guy that she kicked off the stage. And then the reason why I come back is I just want to see like what direction that she goes in. Like where can I take this little bunny? What is she capable of doing in this world?
Still wish Clobro would have stuck.
I know.
All right, Leon, what do you have? You're kind of new to this, but I feel like you have a reason you keep coming back. Don't just say it's Miara. That's cheating.
Oh, it's definitely her.
It's definitely me. That's the answer. It's definitely me.
No, it's So trying to remember the question. That was 3 answers ago, but
So-
Sorry.
Yeah,
high point for
so
me. Yeah, go ahead and repeat the question for me.
so kind of out of what you've played so far, what has kind of been your favorite moment, or at least the most memorable moment to you, and what keeps you coming back to the table?
Definitely playing whack-a-mole with that stone monster. With the magic missiles for sure.
That was definitely
mean
an awesome
Battleship?
moment.
Yeah, Battleship. That's the one. Yeah, definitely just thinking of that on a whim, and that, kind of interacting and changing the battle at the end. It was a little exciting. And what keeps me coming back is I'm very interested in the storytelling aspect of D&D, and kind of excited to see how my character develops in this story, even though we came in kind of midway. Although I don't know what how far the story is going so far, but yeah, kind of excited to see where it goes.
Hey, just remember, there's no time that is too late to join a D&D campaign.
This is true.
Even
joined
though
the
the
last one late.
story has only gone roughly about 6 or 7 sessions now, you can join midways or even at the end and still do something. You can still find a way to leave your footprint in the world. And
I
that's
also don't think we're midway through and you're not joining that late. There's a lot of
Yeah,
story to be
We're
told.
definitely at the beginning.
yeah, they spend a lot of time in downtime, and so there's a lot of the actual story that hasn't quite been tapped. There's still a lot of mystery
Gotcha.
for them to tap into as well. I know
And-
Dee Dee has been trying to investigate a string of terrorist attacks as well, so there's a lot that y'all haven't touched on. And I'm very excited for y'all to continue forward.
Well,
Gotcha.
if I can say something just real quick, I do kind of want to play off of one thing that you said, Leon, with that you mentioned the magic missile thing that you did, and I do want to just take this time. We talk about all of our accomplishments a lot, but what we don't mention is the fact that we do have a DM that works with us, and if we have a decent idea, he lets it play out. And so we often get a lot of the credit from him, but I don't think he gets enough credit from us from time to time. So I do want to take this moment to just kind of brag on our lovely DM here for just a bit.
Oh yeah, he's definitely made my first experience memorable for sure. He's a really good DM.
Oh, you guys are gonna make me cry. Not on stream. Not on stream.
Yes, on stream.
No. Okay, Miara, I need you to take over here.
Okay, yeah, my high would be the overall experience, honestly. Like I said earlier, I've never been in a campaign that's this immersive, that has such lore background and such like NPC depth. It's really great. Like, it's almost like walking into a film set, except the film is real and you're in it and you're living it and you can like picture it and you can see it. So I'm really excited to see how Miara develops as a person, not only as herself, but her relationship with Wynn and her relationship with the rest of the Sidewinders. And yeah, that's pretty much what keeps me coming back.
I love to hear that. I do love to try and make it to where it's almost like you're falling into a book. So
It is very much like living a book.
But the best part about it is books are kind of already written out, and those
There's an
stories have
end, but
already.
This has.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's no particular end in this story.
the story isn't over until y'all are over or done with it, and we move forward. And even then, the story continues on.
Like the last campaign is a good example as to the fact that it carries on, because we've mentioned to it a bit, and not I'm the only one who was in the last campaign, but it's literally made my character for me. And so the story just continues to evolve, and there are things that have just changed drastically from time because of just how the story developed itself.
And the best part about that is with that original story,
It
We're
was supposed
going-
to be a one shot.
we're going to do a campaign overview for that story with the original founders at some point, and hopefully in the near future, because I want to do it before everyone kind of forgets their own things. But that started out as just a one shot, which in Dungeons and Dragons term, a one shot is you gather some players, you sit down, you play 3 hours from a start to end, and then that's the close. And I actually left that one shot on a cliffhanger on purpose, and they came back and wanted to know how the story ended. And so that 3 hour one shot became what was the Tales of Andriel. It became a 1.5 year campaign that
With, what was it, 16 PCs that were made during the whole thing?
we made so many characters, and
I made 2. Let's see, there was one person made 3 or 4.
There was quite a few. We had people come in, we had people come out, but the interesting thing is even in those parties, when you have one person join and then they leave, their character remains in my world, whether for good
One of
or
them
for
became a
bad.
side villain at the end.
That is true. But that 1.5-year campaign created Vatia, which is the world that we're exploring now. And there's so many kingdoms. That was just the Kingdom of Andrial, the Tales of Andrial, which is a small little island about the size of the British Isles in the middle of this world that is full of like y'all's kingdom, the Orichalcum Empire, which is as big, if not bigger, than China and Russia put together. Massive expanses, and there's so many
And
more
Euravia with
kingdoms
the
for
other
y'all
campaign.
to. Yeah, and there's so many more worlds for y'all to explore. So even at the end of this campaign, it could continue. There's so much more potential as long as the people keep coming back and want to play. And so it's amazing how just that small spark has led to now there's 2 active campaigns that are running within this world as well. But I digress. Styx, you're up.
What's the question again? It's been a little bit.
That's fine. I keep derailing it. So the question that I had before we finish all this up is, what is a memorable moment that you have, and what keeps you coming back to the table?
Oh, I've actually had a few memorable moments. Since this is really like my first chance to play a high charisma character, I've been using it. So a lot of the stuff with Respucia, and then the threesome in the brothels.
Oh wow! Now we're getting more detail.
Yeah, my wife left the chat.
That's who that was.
But and then the stuff that I can't really bring up, but it involved a lot of deception that I got to use. And it's probably not smart the way I did it, but it was great and funny. So I can't wait for it to come out. What keeps me coming back, I think, are the little moments where I can make just Fox really confused or speechless. For example, there was that one where we were in the palace and all the guards started to come towards us, and I just sent Hoots out to bring in the Hollowwoods, and it completely derailed this combat.
True. I was not expecting you to bring in high-level NPCs to fight y'all's battle, but I did
It
allow it. So, everything is possible, or as our catchphrase is, you can try.
And then I think the other one was when I also kind of in that same area, but we were talking about, because my character Styx was pretending to be a researcher who wrote a book, and one of the guys asked him about, I think, the elemental planes, and I was able to use a character that we had used in a one-shot that I made his master, and just the you went silent, but I could tell you were laughing on the other end when I brought it up.
Definitely. So there's a lot of interesting moments when you've derailed me. I remember specifically in the Festival of Night when you just gave all your tickets away to a kid and just started macking on my Rasputia. I was so dumbfounded because I didn't know how your character was going to behave, and it just caught me completely out of the blue. But it made for some incredibly funny moments and stories, and that's really what it's all about, is just friends coming together at the table to do dumb stuff. Do fun, dumb stuff. And so, yeah. But what keeps you coming back, Styx?
Just the fact that I get to play Styx, I get to be somebody who I'm not. That, and it gives me a lot of stuff to do on like my real life downtime that I'm supposed to be working on, but I never do.
Ah, yes.
just gives me something to do.
Well, we enjoy having you. So, it wouldn't be the same without every single one of y'all being here. I promise you. But that being said, I believe it is time to kind of wrap it up. We are hitting close to the 3-hour mark. I could talk with y'all all night, honestly, but some of us do have work
Guess we'll
tomorrow.
have to save that hoots and scoots for later.
Oh, well, actually, he could probably describe it right now. Would you like to
What
tell
do you
them
know?
about the hoots and scoots?
There's a question asking that. So my backstory, my character, after his master left him, was wandering around, even before he met Demetrius, doing a lot of odd jobs and kind of being a scoundrel, taking money, not being completely honest. And one of the tricks he did is called Hoots and Scoots. It is where he'll pretend to sell Hoots, his familiar. He'll pretend he's a trained owl. He'll sell them for money, and then when he gets about a day out, he'll just summon them back. So he makes off with a lot of money.
It's quite a swindler.
That's what you would call a hoot and scooting right there.
That's what
Hoots and
it's
Scoots
called.
is
Hoots and
my
scoots.
favorite thing.
I remember they
Love
tried
the
to do
Hoots
it
and
in the
Scoots.
black market, which did not end well.
It did.
All right. Well, before we wrap up, does anyone have any last things that they would like to tell our audience members? Anything that you would like to contribute or add on to?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head other than see you next time.
Stay tuned.
All right. Well, in that case, I want to go ahead and thank Leobel, Demetrius, Clover, Leon, Yara, Styx. I want to thank all of y'all for joining me on this episode of Magic, Mischief, and Mayhem for our little QA edition. And honestly, y'all's magic, y'all's creativity, all of this has made it unforgettable. Getting to sit here with y'all and talk with all of y'all and getting to share this experience with not only ourselves, but now with more people, an audience now. It's made this debut truly unforgettable. So thank you so much for attending, honestly. And our listeners, may your dice always roll in your favor, and may your adventures be filled with magic, mischief, and endless mayhem. So until next time, farewell from Vacia, and don't forget to take a moment and like and subscribe. We definitely want to see you around next time. All right, have a magical night.